essentially kind of be, passing on these tariffs. Now, Walmart, we haven't heard from them yet, but just the fact that multiple state media outlets have said this, it could be seen as a warning shot by China to Walmart by calling them out publicly.
ABC's Britt Clinton. The Department of Education hit by massive cuts last night. 1,300 employees laid off in the latest round. The FBI joining the investigation into the suspected arson on March 4th at the New Jersey home of a Bayer pharmaceutical executive. That according to law enforcement sources. This is ABC News. Today, Russia launched attacks across Ukraine. It follows the announcement yesterday that Ukrainian leaders agreed to a U.S. proposal for a 30-day ceasefire with Russia. Russia, though, still a holdout on that deal.
The Kremlin's reaction so far to the U.S.-Ukraine proposal for a 30-day ceasefire has been very cautious, saying essentially that they're studying it and will not be pushed into anything. Now, I think that reflects that this has put Vladimir Putin in a dilemma. Putin, including as recently as January, has categorically rejected any temporary ceasefires, insisting on a full deal that gives Russia most of what it wants. But Putin will not want to reject this out of hand because that would risk alienating President Trump.
ABC's Patrick Reevell. In Michigan today, the Coast Guard called to rescue a man who tried to land his paramotor-like vehicle on a frozen lake outside Detroit. He became trapped in the ice. Brighton area fire authorities say they attempted CPR, but the man died on scene. The Coast Guard also had to rescue firefighters from the icy cold waters. Michelle Franzen, ABC News.
If you're living with dry age-related macular degeneration or dry AMD, you may be at risk for developing geographic atrophy or GA. GA can be unpredictable and progress rapidly, leading to irreversible vision loss. Now there's something you can do to
slow it down. Get it going slower.
Izervay is proven to slow GA progression.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Izervay or avacincaptad pagel is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com.
The views and opinions of the following show do not reflect those of WSMN, its owners, and/or associates.
Welcome to the Common Sense Conservatives, a political discussion group about current events and other government-related matters every Wednesday evening from 7 to 8 p.m. Right here on WSMN 1590 AM, WSMN 95.3 FM, and streaming live on wsmn.live. Making sense of the inverted reality we are subject to every day, the Common Sense Conservatives are here to help bring you back to reality. Now, your hosts, Chris Wyatt, Todd McKinley, and John Groven.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's right. We are here to bring you back to reality. I'm your one of your hosts, Todd McKinley, Northeast Tennessee, joined by my co-host, PA.
I can't hear Todd.
He's fading in and out. He was there, then he left.
I don't know.
You're back. I can hear him.
There we go, folks. It's Todd McKinley, the magic and the wonder of technology. Colonel Chris White there in Central PA, and of course John Grosvenor. I don't know if he can hear me.
People out there hearing the radio side of it that aren't hearing anything.
But you guys can hear me, no problem, right?
You got to figure out what's going on here.
You guys can hear me, yes, Colonel.
There it is. All right, we're good.
All right, everybody, we're good. Colonel, can you hear me?
We're good to go.
I can hear you. You're popping in and out, but then the broadcast wasn't quite right. My sound jacked up to about 10,000 there.
All right. Well, Colonel, we'll go to you. How are you doing this week?
Well, I'm doing better than Canada.
Right? I imagine so. No care today?
Getting smacked down in Canada, a little Dougie Ford there. We love America. I really hate to do this to America, but we're giving you 25% tariffs to Michigan, New York, and Minnesota so we can destroy the auto industry. Because Trump's orange man bad. 5 hours later, we've decided to withdraw the tariff for now. We're going to keep it as a tool.
Keep it as a tool. There you go. All right.
John, I know who the tool in that conversation is.
I know exactly. Right. He was the guy talking into the microphone. I love it. Not you, of course, but John, how are you, sir?
Doing absolutely well. Really, really thankful today because we had an announcement that Senator Jeanne Shaheen will not be running for another term in 2026. So we're looking to get some good conservatives in here. We've got New Hampshire's got to step up now. We got to get some conservatives into our federal.
Don Bolduc.
I would love to bring Don back. I think Don would be a great fit.
Absolutely, I do too, and I think that his name is out there, and at this point, I think it's one of those. The iron is hot. Let's go ahead and strike, because if he waits another term or whatever, I think it would be past his time. But I think he's got his name out there. Now is the time. Go ahead and go for it.
Well, I'm also confused because conflicting reports about Sununu said he wasn't going to run, but then when Shaheen announced he was retiring, now I see a couple reports claiming he's going to run. What's the word up there, John?
I did not hear anything on Sununu running for Senate. Chris Pappas is considering a run against her. Chris Pappas is in the House seat in the 1st District, and he's thinking about trying to fill that Senate seat.
That's interesting because the mayor of Howick in KwaZulu-Natal province of South Africa is named Chris Pappas.
Oh, wow. The
Small
Greeks
world.
get around, right?
They sure do.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting. When do you suspect some people would be making an announcement or going around and kind of testing the water? Because I'm imagining, 2026, the election cycle is probably going to start up maybe this summer. You're going to see people going to the Republican picnics or Reagan Day dinners, stuff like that. What are your thoughts, or what's the pulse there in the different cities if you're hearing anything?
Not actually. She just made this announcement today, so
okay.
I think this is the time when people now are going ding ding ding. You know what I mean? They're saying this
Right.
is a great opportunity because this is a non-incumbent race. So
Right.
Well,
they're gonna start putting their feelers out there, and I expect that maybe it's usually most people, if it's 26 race, they probably won't say anything because they don't want to overcommit themselves because of restrictions due to campaign laws.
Right.
So they're probably not going to put their hat in the ring until about the beginning of 26 or so.
Well, actually, Scott Brown's name has already come up, and I think he made a statement on this. The carpetbagger from Massachusetts, the Rhino former part-time fill-in senator who managed to lose that seat, wants to run in New
Right.
Hampshire. That's the word.
Yeah, interesting.
A little bit more
So
than I did because I just found out about this not too long ago. I was looking through news and I'm going, "Oh wow, look at this!" And there goes my contact with Shaheen's office. Now.
What's
Look,
funny about
we've already been throwing a party all afternoon with the Shaheen thing, man. I'll tell you what, there's beer pouring in the streets out here in Pennsylvania that she's going to be gone. If we could just get Susan Collins to go with her and Murkowski, it'd be a trifecta.
Yeah. Oh, that would be a great day up that way, right? But yeah, think about these carpetbaggers, that move from one state to another. They hold office here, they move somewhere else. They use the name recognition, like you just talked about. It kind of reminds me of the Renter Royals, if you will. It's like, some royal family from one dynasty will move over to some other country and will be basically fill-in royals for some other country. It's kind of reminds me of that. And some of these royals, the Renter Royals, don't even speak the language of the places that they're ruling over. It's kind of funny.
What do you call them? Rent-a-royals?
Rent a royal. Yes, correct.
Are they associated with the Rent-A-Center franchise?
Right.
Rack.
Right.
That was an odd name for a business, but that was big for a long time because people don't have much money would rent TVs and washing machines and things like that. But no, look, it's very exciting stuff here to hear that Shaheen is going to leave. That could, with New Hampshire on the cusp of being a red state. I mean, it's back and forth. It's kind of there. Maybe at state level, we'll get that back. We get a Republican in that seat. That would be very exciting to see.
We are very much a red state, statewide, on a state level. We're very much a red state. Ayad has been really tough. She's been doing. I'll tell you what, man, she's blown me away because you know how I felt about her and stuff and things I've said here on this show. But I'm approving of her actions so far. I mean, in fact, Bill O'Reilly just did a bit on the war between the governors, Ayad and what's her name, Neely or something down in Massachusetts. And on this whole ICE thing, because Massachusetts wants to protect all these illegals, and Ayad's like, "Oh no, I'm signing executive order here. Here you go. I want all my law enforcement officers to get on this and work with ICE and get them out of our state."
Well, John, just be honest. You're just saying nice things about Kelly Ayotte because you want to keep those ties and have access.
No, it's like AOC. He's trying to date her. That's
I am the man. Will call you out in a heartbeat. I'm a mean SOB.
He's trying to date her like AOC. Chris is trying to date AOC.
Gosh. Oh my gosh.
Did she refuse your love letter whenever you went?
The date AOC would have to be hate date, right?
Gosh.
I hate you. Yes,
It's
we'll go for a hamburger. Okay.
it's a badunkadunk date. I'm telling you. So
Hey, it'd be
anyway.
like being married. I
Uh-oh.
mean, most of us guys fight with our wives.
Yeah.
So.
Well, you
What would
could
be the
talk
difference?
talk about the many facets of a garbage disposal. What's that? What does that do? Oh, I've never seen
A
one.
microwave? How does that work?
Oh, these are brand new technology. I brought them to you guys in Brooklyn or Queens or wherever.
What's
You
up,
know,
she
if-
invented the internet.
Yeah, but no, that was Al Gore.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we don't never want to forget that. It was Al
But
Gore.
let's not forget they always confuse about the first female pilot in space or astronaut in space, and they always confuse about the first black pilot. And
Yeah,
Al Gore making groundbreaking records when they've already been broken.
Al Gore posted on the internet, "I invented the internet." That was the first
Exactly.
post ever.
Top of the irony. Yeah.
Yeah.
So guys, here's the thing to watch for.
Yep.
In about 35 minutes, SpaceX is launching to go retrieve the astronauts that Boeing left up in space about 9 months ago. And this has to go flawlessly, or guess who'll get blamed for it by the lunatics in DC?
Hey, Trump and Elon and yeah.
Yeah.
Big
They'll
time,
blame him. They'll blame Elon, and they'll call for cancellation of contracts, and then we'll lose 20 years in space. That's what'll happen. So it's got to be a flawless mission. It's got to be big. It's got to be the best. Got to be forever. Yeah, it's got to be one of those Trump events. Yeah, it's got to be best. I'm telling you, man. Otherwise, all we'll hear tomorrow is eating the dogs, eating the cats, eating the pets of the people in Springfield. That's what we hear tomorrow.
Where's SpaceX launching from? Is it East Coast?
Boca Chica. That's the coast of Texas there.
Okay, so the Gulf of America, right?
That's right, the Gulf of the Americas.
Americas, yeah. I forgot. We gotta correct
this is determined to change this.
On this
I'm a
show,
rebel.
yeah. Start the trend. I love it.
Okay, Todd, I know you got the lead tonight, but I can't hold back on this.
Run with any story you got.
It's too good. Did you see the committee hearing in the House when the speaker in the committee said, "I recognize the gentleman, Mr. McBride from Delaware," and Mr. McBride says, "Thank you, Madam Chairperson." So Sarah McBride, the first transgender member of the House of Representatives, was addressed as Mr. McBride, and without missing a beat, Sarah McBride says, "Thank you, Madam Chairperson," to the guy. Look, you got to give him her props, whatever. That was hilarious. And then this guy jumps in and says, "You're out of order, Mr. Chairman." The dude was so out of order. Finally, the chairman just knocks on the gavel and says, "Meeting adjourned."
Oh my God, I mean, that's so funny. I would have laughed. I would have said, "No, you're out of order." That was funny. Moving along. Yeah.
I'm out of order. You're out of order.
The whole place is out of order.
No, but the meeting lasted less than a minute. He's just, I'm telling you, every time I watch it, I almost need to go to the restroom because it's just too funny. I mean, it's so first off, the guy says, Mr. McBride, and without missing a beat, because obviously this has happened to McBride before. Thank you, Madam Chairperson.
Speaking of the courtroom dramas and colonels, a retired colonel told me the other day, he was a former JAG guy, but he said, what was the premise of the movie A Few Good Men, and where everybody's talking about, doing the right thing, this and that, not following legal orders, all this stuff. He said, no, if you're a colonel, make sure you're better shielded from your code red guy. You need to have him. So that was the judge's advice, by the way. Make sure you have a better shield from your code red guy.
Well, Jack Nicholson thought he was shielded, but then he let his mouth get him in trouble. He had to invoke the Fifth Amendment right there. He can't incriminate himself. But no, I want to answer the question, Judge. Okay.
No, he's trying to help you, buddy.
Advice of counsel. I'm going to be stupid and answer this question.
Yeah, I love it, but it was so funny.
Over your own ego right there.
He's like, make sure you're better shielded from your code red guy.
I think in the Army, Todd, we have a magic cure for all these problems. It's called 100-mile-an-hour tape.
Yeah, shut your mouth.
Wrap it around his mouth there so he can't talk. That would have. But what a great movie! That was an incredible movie. When it came out, unfortunately, it was one of those movies directed by Rob Reiner, who's a lunatic. But he did a good job with that movie. It was really good, and I think that Tom Cruise played the role of Caffey very well as a plea bargain things out. Everybody's guilty. This is just a job. My dad was an airman. I don't really care. I'm just here because I have to be. And he turns into a really passionate officer who goes after doing the right thing. And I also like how it ended. The guys, like the one guy is pretty stupid. He's an IQ of about 37. He's like, "What? We won. What we do wrong?" And the other guy says, "We were supposed to stand up for Willie. We didn't do the right thing." And they're cashiered out of the Marines. But at least they don't go to jail.
Right. Yep. Absolutely. That's true. But anyway, yeah, I thought that was just kind of funny that he told me that joke. Yes, I figured you get a kick out of it, and I'm like, yeah, that's right. If you're a colonel, you better shield yourself from the code red guy.
I don't know how you do that. I never had. I mean, people around me.
No, you don't. No, never.
No, my experience is you fall on the sword, and I've seen some really good leaders fall on the sword for things that happened on their watch they had no control over, but they did the right and moral thing. And it's tough. You lose a good leader that way sometimes, but that's just the nature of things. Unlike politics, military leaders they stand up, and they normally there are exceptions, but by and large, the vast majority of military leaders do the right thing all the time, and they take the fall, whether it's their fault or not. Whereas politicians are always blaming somebody else.
Yeah, well, Ollie North as an example, the Iran Contra, he put on the uniform, and I was watching a documentary. It's like, yeah, he put on that uniform, and it's like he hadn't worn a uniform in like 10 years, and like all of a sudden he shows up, military decorations from here to there, Silver Star, and he's like, he's going to go in there and testify, and he's going to admit that he did wrong, and the American people are going to fall in love with him. And that's what happened, I think.
Well, I wasn't one of them, but yes, they did fall in love with him. I like him, not because of Iran Contra, but his war stories that he did later on Fox were pretty good. He got a measure of respect back from me, but I didn't have much respect for him at the time. At the time that he did that, I was still enlisted, so
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I was a young guy, but he became a household name. It's like, Ollie North. It's like everybody knew who he was, be a stand-up guy like Ollie North, and it's like funny whenever they talked about email. He talked, they found that he, didn't delete all the emails. He's like, what? Didn't I get them all? He's like, well, you got me.
Yeah, fair point. No, but I remember he had like a security fence put in there or something like that, which was not, something like that, $78,000 was a lot of money. And at the time, I just remember that, as an E3 and E4, I would go to the PX and buy cans of paint because our unit had no money to buy paint. Paint over my vehicles. It's Army's vehicles. I'm using paint out of my pocket, making $159 every 2 weeks. So I kind of took exception to a lieutenant colonel getting somebody to pay for security fence. That's where I'm coming from in that position, and that kind of stuck with me my whole life.
Yeah, no, I would agree with you. That makes good sense right there for sure. But somebody that was loyal to a fault, and that's what I don't really appreciate whenever it comes to politics in Washington D.C. If you wear that uniform, do not get engaged in the politics if you can avoid it, and don't be loyal to a fault. Be loyal to the Constitution. That's where your oath is to the American people.
Absolutely, to the Constitution. But, guys, speaking of America, of course, we have our own symbols of freedom. We have our flag, which you have right behind you, along with the Tennessee flag, the volunteer state. Hoorah. And then, of course, we've got the national anthem and all these things. Speaking of, Canada has a new anthem. Have you heard it? Oh, Canada, you're so really screwed.
I did hear there was a attorney over in Alberta who's running a delegation for secession to the United States.
Interesting.
So,
Alberta would take, but you can keep Ontario and Quebec and British Columbia. Awesome. You can keep them, man. Maybe Nova Scotia, PE Island, Anne of the Green Gables. I can be down for that. That can be part of America. But
if we take Quebec, we'll be bilingual.
Well, you're gonna have to say it correctly first. It's not Quebec, it's Quebec.
Quebec, yeah.
I know, but I'm American, so I'll say it as I darn well please.
No.
Well, there's that.
Or how people from Chicago call Toronto. Toronto, it's Toronto.
Yeah. No, John's from America. He's from America, man.
Yeah, he's deep south.
Redneck American over here.
No, America's not a deep south thing. That's American thing. America, man.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, it works for me.
What was that great movie back in the day? That fantastic documentary was called Team America.
Team America, World Police.
There you go. That's the one. Oh my goodness. I'll never forget that. Anyway, we've got some folks in Canada in the audience here on the social media. So got one in actually from Alberta. He's laughing. He's giving good emojis there laughing about it. But no, Canada's in a deep spot. I don't know what their leaders think they're going to accomplish here. They're playing chicken with a $30 trillion economy. And the world's largest trading bloc is the United States, Canada, and Mexico. It is. It exceeds the second largest block of trading, which is the U.S. and China by a wide margin. But the thing is that they are really playing with the lives of people up there, this tit for tat, and the Europeans now have put sanctions on American Harley Davidsons and other things like that, 50% tariffs, not sanctions, but tariffs. And their argument is that, well, we're doing this in retaliation. Well, there's a reason that Trump did it to you. We ship Cadillacs to Europe, and it's a 10% tariff. You ship BMWs and Mercedes here for 2.5%. That's 400% higher than ours. How about you level the playing field there, Europe? But they won't do it until they suffer some pain.
Yeah, no, absolutely, as they should. I don't know if you guys see this. Fox News reporting New York assemblyman tries to confront Tom Homan over arrest of Columbia University anti-Israel activist, and it's assembly member of New York City and mayoral candidate Zoran Mamdani. He was seen trying to get past the state police there, trying to confront Tom Homan. Not a good idea. You're going to get arrested. You do something stupid like that, my friend. But yeah, so they're trying to protect these protesters who destroyed Columbia University, people who need to be ousted from this country because of their ties to terrorism, and especially terrorist organizations.
Well, what they're trying to do, and we see this in the case of Khalil, who's whining his pregnant American wife. Well, yeah, you're a foreign national. Knocking up an American doesn't mean you get to stay here. But his pregnant American wife, he's been sent down to Louisiana, I think, in a holding cell. And they're trying to make the argument, well, he's just a protester. No. He committed criminal acts, violent criminal acts, and then endangered lives of Jewish students. And he's going to play this free speech. And it's all, it's ridiculous. I'm seeing this nonsense being published in all sorts of media outlets now by people who are foreign PhD students who are like, oh, I feel so at risk here because I can't speak my mind. You can speak your mind, but you have to get a permit. You have to adhere to the rule of law. You cannot endanger public safety. You cannot threaten other people or inhibit or prohibit them from going about their daily lives. You have committed domestic terrorist acts, whether you admit it or not. And we're not going to let you get away with this free speech argument because it's not free speech. You can't go in a theater and shout fire. It's not free speech. You're endangering public safety. You cannot invade a campus, trash the campus, destroy buildings, camp on the grounds, impeding public access to it, threatening, making menacing comments towards and actions towards others. That is menacing. That is domestic terrorism, and you will be deported. And it's about time. It's long overdue. There are thousands of these people that shouldn't be on these campuses, including Chinese and all kinds of other people.
Right, absolutely. And of course, last week we talked about Al Green, Representative Al Green, who was ousted from President Trump's joint speeches to Congress. Now Congress is kind of torn on what the actual punishment is going to be, so they're still kind of weighing that out. What are your thoughts on what should happen to him as far as his time in Congress? I know they're not going to kick him out, but removal from some committees, something like that. What are your thoughts?
No, I think he should be forced to wear a dunce cap when he sits in the House of Representatives and carry a sign walking for 2 hours per day out in front of the Capitol building. I am a race hustling piece of slime.
Yeah. Or somebody behind him with the trombone. Right?
Yeah.
Trombone slide. Yeah.
But he was censured. So usually under censure, you lose your committee seats, don't you? You pretty much become
that typically is a punishment
for the term. However, you do get the House floor votes.
Yeah,
well, you take the vote away because you're disenfranchising voters,
right?
Which is what they did in Maine to a Republican member of the House there who put a post on about biological males in girls' sports. They took her vote away. That's on. Yeah. She's suing, by the way, in federal court.
Right. Yeah, you should still vote and you can still speak on the House floor, but your committee assignments are done. So you really can't vote in the committee. So that's pretty much that.
Big whoop. I mean, it's actually vacation. You don't have to sit in those boring meetings for 8 hours.
No, a lot of people they
most of them don't anyway.
Get those committee seats. They're trying to get better committee seats and empower themselves.
Well, yeah.
But Al Green is 9,000 years old. I mean, this pimp has been around forever.
Yeah,
he's like Dusty's old.
He did have the pimp cane. He did have the pimp cane.
You did.
Nice looking cane, by the way. I'll tell you.
Got the ponytail too.
Yep, absolutely. Yep. So President Trump,
I hear they picked on him because he's black.
No,
that must be what it was.
No, there was a wink and a nod between the Republicans and Democrats. It's like, hey, we're going to do this. It's like, well, who's going to be kicked out? What's going to be Al Green? He's going to be on the end, and that's what happened. And that way, they didn't have to go into the middle of the aisle to get somebody out. He was a sacrificial lamb, and he had no problem with it.
Oh yeah, exactly. Voluntary. He's happy to do it. He loves the attention. The whole thing was staged. We know that.
Yeah,
There's no question.
Republicans already knew about it.
I broadcast the whole speech live, and I said, look at this. He's already standing before Trump even started to speak. This is staged. They've already told Mike Johnson that Hakeem Jeffries probably went to Mike Johnson. Look, all right, we're going to behave mostly, but Al's going to be a little thorn in the side to get started. Just and we'll give you a chance. Give you a chance to tell him to sit down, and then just remove him. We know how it's going to go.
Right, and so Democrats can fundraise on him being tossed out. So Republicans can do the same thing. It was a prearranged agreement, so don't pretend that it wasn't. Republicans and Democrats.
And the Congressional Black Caucus, which is a race hustling slime body, can go, "Woe is me, America's systemically racist."
No, I don't think so. Yeah, I mean the makeup of Congress right now. If you look at the demographics, whatever it may be, you talk about if somebody's race, color, religion. It's a wide range now. I mean, more diverse than it's ever been in our nation's history.
Well, if it depends how you look at it, the Democratic Party is wildly overrepresented by minorities. For their percentage of Congress, they are
Sure, I
way
agree with that.
overrepresented. But by the
Right.
same token, Republicans are underrepresented, so it comes out about even in the wash.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. And you can't say it's systemic racism when people are, in your district are voting. They're the ones who are deciding. It's not some magic machine behind, somebody behind the, the pulling the strings or Oz pulling a lever. I'm sorry. It doesn't work that way. It's you as an individual deciding to go in there and vote and who you decide to vote for.
Is it a lever or a lever?
It depends on where we're at.
Is it a potato or a potato? Or tomato or a tomato?
Spell it, Vice President Quell.
Oh gosh.
Wow,
Boy,
that goes way back.
we haven't forgotten that, have we?
No, we have not. Speaking of Vice President Quell, how old is he these days? He's got to be pushing into his 80s now, right?
Oh gosh. No, he was young when he was vice president, so he must have been in he's probably 70s. Yeah, 70s.
Yes, 70s. Okay, absolutely.
Yeah.
So anyway, if you guys have anything you guys want to talk about, I'm just kind of scanning the news because
we have a couple comments that we haven't addressed. Tony,
yeah, bring them up. Bring them up.
That,
before you get to that, John, I got to say something. The guy who calls us all the time, Dan.
Yeah,
I heard him on the Will Cal show the other day.
Oh yeah,
nice.
Or was it on Handy? It was one of the two though. He called in. I think it was Will Cal. Yeah, anyway.
yeah. He does this. He loves to call radio stations, and if he can get the time, he loves to lay it out there for people.
Yeah, I heard him. Yeah. Like, wait a second, that's like Dan, and it sure was.
Real quick, and I'm going to get the Colonel because you're big on space here. The rescue mission has been scrubbed, according to Tony Nagy here. He just so what are your thoughts and what's going to be the fallout for Elon and
I don't
Doge, SpaceX, anything?
There'll be no fallout for scrubbing. It's a safety issue most likely, and I'm going to guess it's weather. I don't know what's looking like in Boca Chica, but I'm going to go to SpaceX and see if I can't find out why it was scrubbed.
Real quickly to answer your question on Dan Quell, he is 78 years old.
Yeah, I knew he was close to 80.
Okay. You guys were right up there. You were right there on pretty much on mark.
Yep, folks, you're listening to the Common Sense Conservatives right here on WSMN 1590 AM and 95.3 FM, coming to you live every Wednesday night, 7 to 9 Eastern, trying to bring you back to reality. And of course, Colonel's looking up a couple things here with regards to SpaceX scrubbing the rescue mission, trying to bail Boeing out, as he so rightly pointed out a little bit earlier in the show. What are you seeing there, Colonel?
It just says that they're standing it down. Safety is a priority. Postponing launch, a wise decision. Doesn't say what the reason was. I guess you probably had to be watching the launch to see why, but it is scrubbed. Yep, safety first is scrubbed. So.
Safety issue.
And it doesn't say when the next launch window will be, so I'm waiting to see when that is. But this would have been exciting. Of course, the Boeing United Launch Alliance guys put those guys up there 9 months ago, and they were lucky to get there alive because there was a leak in one of the containers there, and they docked, and then they couldn't.
Right.
And they sent it back without the crew, and they've been living in space now on a 7-day mission for going on a year.
Being
a 3-hour tour here, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Being in space is like this great privilege, right? I mean, you get to get up there, and very few people really get to experience this thing. And these poor guys are going to come back to Earth and go, never again. I've had enough space to last me a lifetime.
Yeah, they're going to be 2 inches shorter and have brittle bones for about 6 months till they get piled full of calcium and rebuild that bone structure.
9 months.
Space
Can you imagine being a
space is brutal. Well, I mean, it's not the longest. Russians have been up there longer than that.
Yeah, that's got to be hard. That's got to be really rough.
Oh, yeah. I mean, all you got to watch is, Fat Albert reruns. It gets kind of old.
I'd be sitting out there looking out the window all day, every day, man, looking for UFOs.
Oh, come on now. UFOs docked right there with them. Come on.
Yeah. How do you think they're getting supplied?
They're just, quote unquote, I'm doing the air quotes. They're just hiding it from us. I got confetti. Look at that. Confetti. That's wild.
Well, all I want to see is I want to see the UFDs, the unidentified flying Democrats. That's what I want to see.
Look at Todd over here, man.
Man, I'm sparkling. I'm doing different hand things, and like things are exploding in the background.
He's on an iPhone, apparently.
Yeah. No. I'm on my MacBook Pro.
Okay, well, an Apple product.
I will correct you every time.
Apple product. Same difference.
I'll never go back. I'll never go back to Dell. I'll never own another product.
Oh, I had a Dell, and I'll never buy one again because they make a mass. They don't personalize them at all, and it was not happy. I'll stick with HP. They're fine.
Yeah, they're good. Yeah, it's a good product too.
Yeah, so the mission is scrubbed. That's kind of a drag, but might mean I get to carry it. I wasn't able to carry it tonight because we're on the air, so maybe I'll get to carry it if it goes again.
There you go. Good stuff.
Sometimes work out in your favor.
So I've got a question for some of our listeners who maybe don't get a chance to catch up some of your stuff that you talk about. What are some things that you cover on your channels, and where can people find your work, Colonel?
Oh, well, I do a number of things. Although this week I was slandered as a right-wing podcaster by a journalist in South Africa. Actually made the news in South Africa. They're coming after me now. Yeah, didn't mention that I'm a university professor, an undergraduate lecturer, a postgraduate lecturer, a linguist, an energy industry analyst, an intelligence, counterintelligence agent, an intelligence, tactical intelligence officer, teaching intelligence officer, signals intelligence officer, published author in academic and popular press, or that, anyway, none of that, just that I'm a right-wing podcaster. Yeah, so speaking of my right-wing podcast or retired currently, speaking and also judge of elections, whatever, former political candidate, none of that, just a right-wing podcaster. So I guess you can find my right-wing podcast on YouTube. My main news channel, I actually, it's been heavily focused on South Africa because the events unfolding there for the past 6 or 8 weeks. And the channel has been growing quite crazy. I went out broadcasting 2 or 3 times a day, and I'm working 15, 18 hours. And I'm not a professional social media content creator, but it's certainly turning into that in the short term. So that's on YouTube at Colonel Chris White. You can find me there. And then I have my original channel, which was censored by YouTube because I had the temerity to report accurately on the events of November 2020. And then in addition to that, I wouldn't bow down to the cult of COVID. And so on that, I'm on my original channel, came back after 2 years, but it's kind of shadow banned. That's at Real Chris White. And you can also find me other places, Substack, WMW Chris, on Twitter at WMW Chris. It's interesting to see how things are going right now, but a lot of people have been tuning into my content, and I'm grateful for that, especially South Africans, but not exclusively. A lot of Americans are curious about this South African issue now too.
Absolutely, yeah. So speaking of space, it looks like we're going to have a worm blood moon in total lunar eclipse on March 14th. Interesting. What is a worm blood moon?
Okay, look, I'm into astronomy, but I don't know what the heck a worm blood. I know what a blood red moon is, but I never heard of worm blood. Is that like some Chinese New Year or something like that?
I don't know. I'm looking at Newsmax. I'm looking at some space stores. It says worm blood moon in total lunar eclipse. So what the heck are you talking about? I've never heard of that.
Full blood moon. I think you're saying it wrong.
I don't know, man. I've never heard of that before. I mean, I don't know about a worm blood moon or eclipse. I know what a total eclipse of the heart is. I mean, Bonnie Tyler.
Total eclipse of the heart.
What a great song. What a great, now you don't do it justice, nor do I, but what a great song.
John, what about you? Where can people find some of your content? I know you do other shows other than just this show here, right? Where can people find your content?
Well, I have Truckers Independent Broadcasting Network, known as TIBN. We do have a Facebook page, a YouTube channel, a Rumble channel. We're on wsmn.live. Where are we? At X, one TIBN at X. I'm definitely broadcasting on X. And I have the live broadcast on my website, truckersunitedforfreedom.com. If I said that faster, nobody would ever have gotten it right.
There you go. Absolutely.
TIBN.us. I got .us. That's a redirect link. So I'm trying to figure out what a worm moon is here.
I don't know. Still, that's you got me. Is that like from Dune? Is that a worm moon?
Right. Are they bringing the spice in? Is this the only time that
it must be the full moon time of year when people get their night crawlers for fishing?
So what I'm hearing is they scrub the launch to go rescue these guys, so that way the Dune guys could bring the spice in under the cover of the lunar eclipse, right? I think that's right. Let's spread that one around.
A full moon in March has historically been known as a worm moon, according to Old Farmer's Almanac. So apparently a March full moon is a worm moon, and apparently this one's expected to be blood red.
So I have an update on that situation. Apparently the reason why the SpaceX rescue mission is not going to save the NASA astronauts is that apparently we don't have the mission control staff because DOJ just recommended firing everybody at Houston.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, we've got enough privates, astronauts and private folks who can handle that. No problem, NASA. Sayonara. You've done well.
So the only person they're going to keep there is the janitor who's going to be sent to the controls. Don't worry, I'll bring you in. Just let me figure these buttons out.
Just put it on autopilot.
Press all the buttons. Fire all the weapons.
What does Control Alt Delete do? Delete do?
The light. Oh,
What's this red? What's this red button?
That was easy.
Oh yeah. That was Hillary Clinton's, reset button, right? You got the real reset button. She got the joke one. Yeah, she got the joke one.
That was her server button.
Here. Yeah, the Macedonian server farms. She's an agricultural specialist.
Right. Yeah, server farm. How ridiculous. Now, which Macedonia is it in? Right? Which one are we talking about?
It's the former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia.
Okay. Right. Yeah.
Not the Greek province of Macedonia.
Right.
Now it's North Macedonia, I think they call it.
Alexander the Great, and then of course,
Ah, boy, politics.
Pilot.
I feel for those astronauts, man. I mean, look, how much Tang can you go through in 9 months? You know,
they're gonna come back. You talk about Orange Man. They're gonna be orange for sure. They're gonna take so much Tang. Orange Man
jaundiced. They're jaundiced.
They're coming back. They're truly Trump. They're Trumpified. They're Trump fans. I brought them back. They're wearing orange in honor of me.
They're great American heroes. They're all orange. They've got jaundice and they've got brittle bone disease. These are heroes.
Yeah, they're gonna be.
Do they have like exercise equipment up there or something?
Yeah, but it's still. I mean, look, because of the weightlessness, because of the solar, everything has an impact out there. And regardless, that's why they've had people there long term. They still have bone loss. They still have muscle degradation. They have all kinds of issues, tissues in your body shrink. It's all kinds of things. Look, space is nasty. You think Democrats are bad? Space is probably worse. Hard to believe.
Yeah, so absolutely.
This is why space aliens are depicted as brown or gray with these scrawny little bodies. And
no, it's because it couldn't come up with anything more original until Star Trek came along.
Yeah, right. So real quick, let's shift gears to Ukraine. Apparently, there's a proposal on the table, waiting on the Kremlin, waiting on Russia. What are your thoughts? They're going to do the 30-day ceasefire, and if so, where do we go from there to as far as getting out of this situation and getting back to some sort of semblance of normalcy over there?
Well, a member of the in the Kremlin there in their parliament there foolishly stated that, well, we're on the advance, we're gaining ground, we're not going to come to the peace table. I don't really see it playing out of the ground quite that fashion. They may be advancing, but half a kilometer per day is not really an advance.
No.
So they have nothing to lose by accepting the ceasefire, because then they get to look like good guys, because there's no way Ukraine is going to accept the loss of the Donbass, the Crimea being gone forever, and any other concessions. They're going to want to be paid back for all the damage done to the country. So Zelensky, being the clown that he is going to demand a lot more than he'll ever get. And consequently, when it all falls apart in 30 days, he can blame it on the Ukrainians. So I think the Russians would be smart like a fox to accept the ceasefire and look like good guys.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, and basically you can spin it and say, hey, we're going to have mercy on the Ukrainians, and we're going to pause this thing, or we're going to walk away, but get what we can get.
I think Russia also has the upper hand in this, don't they? As far as negotiations.
Well, I should think so, yeah, because even if they didn't, they do now, because Zelensky has really irritated Trump. Trump is not very inclined to work with him.
Yeah, but let's face it, Trump pretty much threw it out there, and Zelensky knew it, agreed to it, that without the United States of America's backing, he wouldn't have lasted 3 days. So Russia knows if the United States is not going to back Zelensky anymore, they got the upper hand.
Well, yeah, they started a couple of days ago sharing intelligence and basically sharing military training or whatever. So that's back on at this point.
Yeah, a lot of people are not happy about that. I'm not one of them. I don't think we should give them maybe intelligence cooperation just in case the Russians start to attack and break a ceasefire. But weapon systems, no, I'm not on board with that.
Yeah.
I agree, because you want the ceasefire, and if you're going to keep supplying them,
yeah, right, yeah, you want the ceasefire. Yeah, you want the ceasefire to hold at the same time. You don't want somebody to be able to get a sneak attack to happen. Somebody take advantage of it.
So remember the story about Trump, before he became president, one of the lies he tells, what they always tell about Republicans, he'll start wars. He's a warmonger. Yeah. He negotiates the Abraham Accords, the greatest peace accord in Middle East history. He ends ISIS in a matter of a few weeks. He defeats him as a threat. He ends the war in Afghanistan. He ends the war in Iraq, and he's a warmonger. No one has been talking peace that has any power. I've been talking since the thing started, but never Biden, never Jens Stoltenberg, never NATO, never Macron, never Merkel, or now Schultz after Rishi Sunak or Keir Starmer. They all want to arm Ukraine. They all want to inflame this war. None of them are talking peace. Donald Trump, that's all he's doing is talking peace. And nobody's giving him credit for it. He's not just talking peace. He's forced the Ukrainians to the table twice and gotten a ceasefire. He's forced the Russians to the table. And, these people just want people to die. What happened to Democrats? Weren't they the party of peace? Didn't they run around a campus in the 60s? Oh, just give peace a chance. They don't care about peace. They are the industrial military complex. They are the warmongers. They are the war profiteers, the Democrats and the European Union and NATO. Shame on them all.
Yeah, well, it's funny. It's very telling whenever you talk about, hey, we have $500 million of spending. We don't know where it's going. It looks like it's fraudulent spending. Can we look into that? You can't look into that. You can't cut that at all. How dare you? You're a criminal. Shut them down. That's what they're doing when it comes to Doge. This is who the Democrats are. Don't look into crimes.
And the problem with that is that that's illegal. Now, there is a classified budget in the intelligence community, and certain departments have it. That's different. If you have the clearance and they need to know as part of the congressional responsibility, you can't get into that. But hiding budgets that are supposed to be overt and open, available to the public, a freedom of information request should reveal all but classified intelligence budgets. Should be released. And even those can be declassified. It's up to the classification agency, but it can be, but not likely to get it declassified before 25 years. But the point here is that these people are trying to cover up their crimes. And they need to be able to count.
Absolutely. Well, you remember their little sexual assault, sexual harassment slush fund that they had that they tried to keep quiet for decades, and it had been going on for many years.
You're talking about for settlements. For
settlements, correct? Yeah, they had a little slush fund. Yeah, that for the most part, taxpayers were paying for.
They still have it, don't they?
I think there is something that they could pay staffers that sign NDAs and stuff like that some money and tell them to keep quiet. I think there's something that's still there. I think it's probably been renamed.
Probably.
Well, speaking of evil organizations like that, did you see that Perkins Coie is suing the government for shutting or taking down their clearances?
I did not see that.
Yeah, they want their clearances brought back. Perkins Coie, which is a favorite law firm of Democrats in Congress, they had their security clearances stripped because they were involved in the nonsense against Trump. So the order imposes punishments as retaliation for the firm's association with the representation of clients that the president perceives as his political enemies. The retaliatory aim of the order is intentionally obvious to the general public and the press because the very goal is to chill future lawyers from representing particular clients. No, the goal is to stop a criminal racketeering organization from undermining the government, which is what Perkins Coie has been doing. So that's what they're trying to do.
Right. Was that the Hillary Clinton law firm?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Then I did see that. Yeah, that is correct.
Yeah. Perkins Coie. Yeah.
Perkins Coie.
They represent virtually every member of every Democrat in Congress. All of them.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. They're probably one of those whenever you have a freshman member of Congress coming in for orientation, that's right in there giving the business cards, to the freshman members.
Yep, that's exactly right. But anyway, so they're taking it to court because they lost a clearance. But here's the problem with that: a clearance is a privilege; it's not a right.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, they have no leg to stand on. It'll
be defeated. It'll be defeated. So no, it's not going anywhere. But that's what they do. They spend all their time. But you know what? Trump's got them unbalanced, and they can keep whining and moaning all they want. But guess what? They're going to lose in most of these cases, and they're going to spend all their money in these cases.
And we're going to keep win. It's right.
And my hands go up and they stay there and they stay there. That's right.
All right.
My goodness. Yeah.
Well, let's go around the robin again here. I'm just kind of scrolling through some news. I know everybody else has probably several things to talk about. I'm not even seeing anything that we've not touched on over the past couple of weeks. Basically Trump's first 100 days still going on. What day are we on right now? I know it's probably close to the end of 100 days, right?
No idea.
Yeah. Oh, so it's 2 months. Yeah. February.
Only 2 months
in,
man. Yeah, it's like 60 days, 70
closing
days.
in on 60 day. Yeah. So what's the report card now? Everybody, as far as the cabinet has been confirmed at this point, and they've taken their seats. What are your thoughts on the administration's? What report card grade would you give them if you had to go down the line? Defense, energy, commerce, so on and so forth.
If you're asking me, I would say a B+.
B+ on the overall. What about you, John? Any issues that they should be focusing on that they're not right now?
I don't know. I guess I agree with Chris. They're laying off a lot of people, man. They are cutting labor, and so it seems to me by doing so, it's going to eliminate a bunch of waste and garbage, and so I think Chris is probably nailing maybe B+ or so. I'm a little disappointed in Pam Bondi. She released that Epstein list, and I have the old list from a year ago. And when I did a side-by-side comparison, I'm going, wait a minute, this isn't just slightly redacted. This is wholly redacted. She took out every address, every phone number where a year ago when it was released, it was just the last four numbers of a phone number, so you knew which location, like if it was New York City, if it was New York State, or LA or whatever. So I'm like, why did you redact everything but the names? I'm like,
So
this is more strict.
if you'd asked him this question after 10 days, it would have been an A plus. It would have been an A. And the reason it's become a B plus is because of the fits and starts with the tariffs and the questions about the tariffs. This thing about the auto industry coming to Trump and getting him to change his mind. That should have been a conversation before he ever imposed those tariffs on Canada and others. So that doesn't really help the markets. It doesn't help the economy. And in the end, it may be a very wise move, but it's just this distractionary thing that's causing chaos. The other thing, too, is that I'm disappointed in the Attorney General. I haven't seen any grand juries impaneled or bench warrants issued for Brandon Johnson and Michelle Wu. These are criminals who need to be locked up for violating federal immigration law and facilitating the criminal invasion of America. And I don't think we should play games with them just because they're elected officials. They violated the law. They have no immunity for their actions. They should be punished. And Pam Bondi needs to get on a stick, as well as we need to start going after all the people in the previous administration who weaponized the administration against American citizens by employing tech companies to violate our First Amendment rights, using them as agents. That needs to happen. Now, maybe that's happening. We don't see it, but the easy ones here, we should be seeing is what's going on. I mean, Tom Homan's agents' lives are being endangered. The public safety is being endangered by people like Michelle Wu and by people like Brandon Johnson, and they need to be dealt with and need to be dealt with immediately. So I'm very disappointed in the Attorney General so far. I'm reasonably happy with Marco Rubio and what he's doing with the skeletal staff of the State Department. I'm interested to see what some other folks are doing. Scott Bessent has been interesting. And I think Trump has just been incredible. I don't really have any major. He gets an A, and his team gets a B. And between the two of them, they get a B plus in my view at this stage.
Okay, absolutely, John. What are your thoughts? And what are some of the people talk about out in the trucking industry?
Let's see. We do not have a nomination for Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administrator, and he just appointed acting administrator, who happens to be from up here, by the way, not far from Nashua, New Hampshire. She's from Chelmsford area, lives in Harvard, and pretty well accomplished woman. But why just acting administrator, and why not put her in for a nomination? I mean, but then again, this is a strategy Trump and other presidents have liked to use in the past. They prefer to have somebody in an acting position because they gain more flexibilities. However, an acting administrator, a regulatory agency, only has 210 days. Then they have to be removed. If ever they exceed those 210 days and go in violation of Administrative Procedure Act, then it's actually a different law. I can't think of the name of the law, that Vacancies Reform Act. So if they violate the Vacancies Reform Act, then anything they put into effect becomes invalid. They can't take effect. So it's but other than that, I don't know. Things aren't going, here's the best thing he's done. Remove 10 regulations to put in one. I think that's probably the best thing he's done right now. But then again, does that defeat things? If it's something good that we need to go into effect, I don't know. Kind of like the transparency, broker transparency truck drivers have been fighting for a long time, which would give people real-time information, real-time data as far as what the rates are paying right now. And for some reason, trucking companies have to submit annually their data and information, how many miles, how many tonnage, and how much revenue and stuff like that they're dealing with. The DOT collects this, but they don't make it publicly available. And I don't understand why. So there's a few things that they could change around in there that Duffy could do to change things around as far as Department of Transportation goes, as it pertains to trucking, that truck drivers can benefit from. But that one regulation would benefit truck drivers a lot, but now can't be put into place unless they move 10 regulations, which they won't do. So it looks like Todd's got
No. I'm just listening right now. So
he's giving the nod. I see you giving the nod. You're looking at something, giving the nod.
No, I gave somebody a thumbs up. They were working on something. I said, gave him a thumbs up. So perfect. Yeah. Sorry.
Todd's got a complete and total staff. See, people don't know this. He keeps a staff.
There's no staff. There's no staff.
You live in a mansion, don't you? You're like in a southern mansion, like a plantation or something.
Right. Yeah. Look at my vineyard I've got here. Yeah. No, I'm actually over in Naples at the moment. I just had the flags behind me just to trick you guys, right? My luxury estate.
Biden never gave an address out of the Oval Office. It was all a stage, remember?
That's true. Yeah, he was in the basement the entire time in a bed, like on the movie Dave, right?
I thought it was in the what do you call it? There, the other building next, the Eisenhower building.
Eisenhower, yeah.
Apparently, he doesn't even sign the executive orders.
Auto
Right.
pens, but that's not
Auto
illegal,
pen.
right?
Of course it
Because-
is. It calls into question the entire presidency.
Right.
No, as
Right.
far as I know, it's not illegal. It's still a signature. No, and any signature, like he could rubber stamp.
Oh,
it
no,
to
no, no.
signature.
It's not a question we can rubber stamp. It's a question whether he's even cognizant of the fact that his signature
Right.
was on it.
Oh well, no,
Right.
that's the question. That's what's in question is whether it was actually him making the decisions. If he actually knew, like a president can pretty much look at somebody and go, "I want that signed," walk away, and it can be auto signed. It's yeah, as long as he gave the order.
Yeah, and now I think during the Bush administration, he had certain restrictions on the auto pen. Like any legislation, and he would sign. Obviously, executive orders he would sign. But I thought he had a lot of restrictions on the auto pen. Like if he's signing a photo or something like that, they can auto pen 1,000 photos or something,
Yeah.
or letters to people, condolence letters, stuff like that are just kind of automatic that he didn't write himself.
I mean, we sign legally binding contracts on the internet every day, and it's
Sure.
all electronic signature.
Sure,
Right.
but you're signing it, not you're sleeping after eating your ice cream and some
Right.
underling is signing something you don't even know
totally
about.
unfair, yeah.
Right. Yeah.
That's the question here. It calls into question whether the guy even knows he did it. We've heard him, on these things with the microphone. What am I signing? What is this?
I hate to be this guy, but it might appeal to my friend Todd Campbell, who criticizes Trump a lot. But did Ronald Reagan once say, "Well, I don't recall"?
Yeah, I don't recall. Yeah, he did say that. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I don't.
I don't know. I don't recall.
You don't remember that? The Nicaragua deal? Nicaragua.
Well, yeah. I don't. Yeah, I remember that.
It was his signature on it, but he didn't recall.
Yeah, right, for sure.
But there's
I
a
guess
difference. If he
he set the
ordered it,
standard.
if he ordered it, and he happened to have lack of recollection of it, that's one thing. But to sit there and not have any idea what's going on in the White House, and somebody else, like say, I don't know, Obama and Clinton is sitting there making all the decisions and telling him to sign this and sign that, and without his knowledge of it, then he's not the president running the country.
I don't think he's running anything.
He's definitely not now. We know he's in charge now, and he's made it well known.
Right. Well, what's funny is all these people in the news media that's coming out, all of a sudden trying to save face. It's like, oh, I'm shocked. Oh, I'm dismayed. It's like you knew all along. You were part of the cover up. You wanted to keep that access, so you winked and nodded. Yeah, he's cogent. He's good to go. And all of a sudden, you want to feign outrage after the fact. Come on now, you have no credibility.
Yeah.
No credibility, and that's why the alternative media, if you will, the independent journalists and stuff, they need to be taken more of a center role versus CNN or the mainstream networks, ABC, NBC, so on. I'd love to see more like that, more people who have a lot of followers, in the press briefing room versus this, mainstream news who maybe gets 100,000 people a night, wherever this person could do one live stream, get 2 million people. I'd love to see that more.
Well, I was one of the first people to apply when she said that Carolyn Levitt said we've got this open to non-traditional journalists, and I got a confirmation before she even finished the paragraph she was saying at that press conference, and I've yet to receive even an email or a phone call or any acknowledgement from them. And I realized probably lots of people apply, but I was definitely at the front of that queue, very front of the queue. And to me, it's just a scam. All they're doing is inviting their friends on like One American Network, and folks like that. So I'm very disappointed in what the White House is doing. They made it sound like they were looking for transparency here, but it seems to me that just their friends are getting invited in tent.
So everybody that's on True Social doing their television programs and stuff, you're saying is at the White House.
Well, I didn't even go that way, but yeah, that's probably what it is. But I mean, One American News and Breitbart and all these others, it's not about alternative media. That's what they said, but it obviously isn't.
I got to tell you, that was a turnoff about True Social, because I felt like it was just Trump in a circle at True Social and everybody else just there to be a spectator. Didn't really feel like there was a whole lot going on as far as social media goes, like what you get on X or something,
Yeah, look, the True Social's not really lived up to the hype, unless you're a shareholder. It's done well, but it's hard to get an audience. To give you an example, I think I have 49 followers on Truth Social, and I had. Before recently, I had just about 2,000 on Twitter after 20 some years of being on Twitter, and now I'm over 6,000 just because I'm on a hot topic and people are finding me. But it doesn't happen True Social. True Social is like Rumble from Dan Bongino. The only people that do well there are people who are famous before they went there.
Right.
And they bring an audience with them. Nobody makes it big on those platforms.
Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah, I mean, you could try as you may, and if you didn't already have some fame, you're good luck. Unless you're just on there all the time working the algorithm, you're probably not going to find a large audience, especially now if you're trying to just now trying to get into it. I think you're probably right.
I see Facebook is trying to make a comeback. It's still left leaning and they're still pushing leftist ideologies with their posts and stuff that comes through your feed. But I noticed they're trying to interact more with their participants or users, as they call them. And it seems like they're trying to bring some life back to the platform.
Well, good luck with that. They're still censoring people, and it happens every day.
Yeah.
It's hard to do well when all you do is censor people. It's just an evil platform. Zuckerberg is not reliable, not trustworthy, and so I wouldn't trust him at all.
No,
well, now I can't get the videos to come up at TI. We were talking about our shows and stuff and TIBN on Facebook. We're live there right now, but I can't find it on the feed. On the main page. I have to go to the video section of it to actually find it. Which is kind of weird because it should come through the main feed, or the main page of it. Just don't know what's going on with that.
Oh,
right. yeah. Hey, Facebook. Yeah, absolutely.
That's what's going on. It's Facebook.
I think they're actually some of the activities I've seen with it. It looks like they've been working on the site again. You can kind of tell when things start glitching that they're doing things behind the scenes. So who knows what's gonna here in a week or two, what's gonna come out of it.
Speaking of things behind the scenes, did you notice that X was down for the better part of 48 hours with the denial of service attacks coming out of Ukraine this week?
Did not see that. No. I'm not on there. I'm not on there enough to catch that.
Oh, I didn't. I'm on there, and I did not notice it was down at all.
It was down. Elon Musk even put a post up, and a few people who trace internet cyber attacks, who know what they're talking about, published stories about it. What happened? Yeah, it was massive. You couldn't even load the page. It doesn't look like any data integrity was harmed. Everything looks to be the same, followers and posts and comments, everything. But they somehow undermined their ability to communicate with the world, and you couldn't load X for hours. And then it came back, and then it went down again, and it came back. Yeah, it just shows you how vulnerable we are to cyber hacking. I worried it was probably an insider job, but they're saying it was Ukraine, which doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, right. It's like at some point, why would the president say over there say, "Hey, listen, knock it off, stop it with the nonsense, stop poking the bear," But they did it obviously to show that they could do something to us.
Our billions of dollars we sent over there to help Ukraine fight a war, they're using it to
poke the bear
and our social media platforms. What, to disrupt the people?
Well, I heard, but I mean, I don't know what the validity of this is, but I heard that part of what was going on here is that the Ukrainians were using Starlink to shut down Twitter, using Starlink to communicate, to send their attacks that way. I don't know if that's true, but what a ungrateful bunch of people that they give them Starlink to survive the war, and then they target Musk. It's just some evil people around there.
Yeah, really I think I just turn off their access to that and just reroute it to somewhere else that might need it in the world. Like some places in Appalachia, right?
Appalachia. Apparently, they don't need it in Brazil.
Yeah, so a lot of places around the world need it. Hey, sorry, you didn't like our gift. It made something that's probably cost. I mean, probably the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars to get these satellites up there and your free access, and you don't want it. You want to screw us over? I'm sorry. We're going to go ahead and cut you off. I would.
So did Teslas come with a Starlink? Because I'm curious, because the Don might have himself a Starlink now with his red Tesla.
Did he actually give him a Tesla?
He bought it. He didn't give it. He bought it.
He bought it.
Yeah.
I see all these guys on social media going, "Oh, that's so cool. I think I could invest into a Tesla now, man. I mean, look at Elon Musk stands up for us." And I'm like, man, I had to put a post in or comment in that post saying, "Make them or don't get any big ideas, man. I'm still driving my V8 gasoline-driven motor."
Yeah. Look, I'm not a fan of electric cars for various reasons. The biggest one is the environmental damage you do that the Greens ignore. Also, I don't like driving for 2 hours and then sitting on the side of the road for 10 hours waiting for somebody to give me a charge. If I had the money, I'd buy a Tesla right now just to support Musk because of the nonsense going on. I mean, they're putting at risk hundreds of thousands of American jobs. And ironically, these evil leftists are attacking the car company that is the most American manufactured car in the country. No car has more American components or parts are assembled in America more than a Tesla. None of the big auto manufacturers produce most of their parts here. They get it from overseas, but Tesla does. And so it's the most American-made car, and Musk only owns a small portion of the actual stock. I guess we'll be back next hour.
Yeah, we'll be right back after the top of the hour break here. And
WSMN 1590, WSMN 95.3 FM Nashua. Listen, watch, and stream at wsmn.live.
ABC News, I'm Dave Packer. The 25% tariffs on imported steel and aluminum ordered by President Trump went into effect today. Next, the European Union said it would respond with retaliatory tariffs, and President Trump saying he'll respond in kind. Senate Democrats say their counterparts in the House had no part in crafting a GOP-approved deal to fund the government beyond Friday night, and Minority Leader Chuck Schumer says Senate Democrats won't provide the votes needed to pass it. Instead, Democrats are pushing for a 30-day clean stopgap bill. This evening, SpaceX scrubbing the launch of a new mission to return 2 astronauts from the International Space Station.
Dragon, SpaceX LD on countdown 1. At this time, we are standing down from today to further address hydraulic release data.
That's Mission Control. The astronauts arrived on Boeing Starliner for what was supposed to be an 8-day trip. Because of technical problems with the Starliner, they're still there nearly 10 months later. SpaceX says they're going to try again on Thursday. This is ABC News. A measles outbreak in West Texas and New Mexico totals over 250.
This is Jim Ryan. The vaccine known to prevent measles is a hot commodity among healthcare providers in West Texas. In fact,
we're getting some reports from pharmacies that are saying they can't order any.
But Catherine Wells of the Lubbock Health Department insists that
we don't have a shortage here in West Texas.
Pharmacies are simply finding new suppliers of the suddenly popular shots. Jim Ryan, ABC News, Dallas.
A Kremlin spokesman says Moscow's getting ready to hear details of the U.S.-Ukraine 30-day ceasefire agreement for Russia to consider.
Until now, Vladimir Putin says he doesn't want a ceasefire. We know he's gone on record as saying he only wants a deal which sees him keep the 20% of the Ukrainian territory he's currently occupying and more. In his eyes, there's still more of Ukraine that he wants.
ABC's James Longman, a municipal clerk in Madison, Wisconsin, placed on leave. Investigators trying to determine how she failed to count almost 200 absentee ballots in the November election. Dave Packer, ABC News.
Do you enjoy fatty foods, sweets, and alcohol? Who doesn't? Unfortunately, all those things put a lot of pressure on our liver. That's why pharmacist, best-selling author, and nutritional expert Sherry Torkos recommends Active Liver from New Nordic.
The liver is an incredible organ. It works nonstop to process toxins and chemicals from our food and drinks, medications we take, and even environmental exposures. As a health expert, I'm often asked how to support the liver's natural detoxification process and offset the effects of fatty foods, sugar, and alcohol. I recommend Active Liver by New Nordic. This gentle plant-based supplement is an effective way to support your liver's vital functions as well as your energy and overall well-being.
With its powerful blend of turmeric, milk thistle, and globe artichoke extract, Active Liver is the perfect way to keep your liver healthy and you feeling your best. Active Liver is available in both a delicious gummy or tablet. You can find Active Liver in the vitamin aisle at your local CVS or online at Amazon or newnordicusa.com.
Spring into adventure now at Campers Inn RV. The sun is shining, open road is calling, and for a limited time, you can drive off in a new RV for just $5 a day. And to make that deal even sweeter, we're giving you a $500 trade-in allowance plus a $500 off coupon. That's an additional $1,000 in savings. But hurry, these offers won't last. From a front bedroom to bunkhouse, we have the RV floor plans that fit your budget and lifestyle. Don't wait. Visit Campers Inn RV today or shop now at campersinn.com.
Continuing the legacy started in 1904, Roger Pellerin of Gate City Monument Incorporated continues to provide the same high-quality monument, custom headstone, and stoneworking craftsmanship today that they built their reputation on over 100 years ago. Servicing Nashua, New Hampshire, as well as nearby areas in Massachusetts, such as Lowell, Billerica, Chelmsford, and beyond. From creating custom monuments to memorialize, to landscaping and granite work or restorative services, each job is done to your satisfaction and is backed by decades of experience and integrity. If you're thinking about stonework, think Roger Pellerin of Gate City Monument. Visit online at gatecitymonument.com. Stop by and meet Roger at 321 West Hollis Street in Nashua, or call 603-883-7141. That's 603-883-7141. Gate City Monument. Memorials of distinction for people who care.
All right. Hey, folks, welcome back to the Common Sense Conservatives right here on 95.3 WSMN and 1590 AM. My co-host is Colonel Chris White there in Central PA. And, of course, John Grosvenor always holding down the studio. There at the end there of the break, I thought I got hearted out there for a second. I was trying to give us a lead out, and I was like, I couldn't hear anything. I was like, well, I guess my microphone got muted. So anyway, we're back, folks. Second hour here, the Common Sense Conservatives. Yeah, it looks like the 100th day will be at the end of April 30th. I know we were kind of doing the math in our head real quick there. Yeah, about April 30th to be the 100 days for President Trump there. Going strong, B+ grade there from Colonel Chris White. I think John kind of concurred with that. And yeah, I'm kind of in the B+, A- type range right there for sure as far as my grade.
Well, yeah, it seems he's a reasonable grade. I mean, you can't expect perfection, but I mean, it does seem like it's been 100 days. It seems like it's been 4 or 5 months because the pace that Trump's been moving at this is unprecedented. No one's ever done this before. I got to be honest with you earlier. What else would I be but honest? But
right, of course.
Yeah. So earlier, Amazon I think has The Apprentice on now, and I haven't seen that since 20 years ago, something like that. So I watched the first couple episodes, the first season of The Apprentice. And Trump is just being Trump, man. He was ahead of everybody back then. He's ahead of everybody now. They are playing catch up, and he is just eating their lunch. And I love it. I love it.
Yep. This out of Washington, maybe 20 minutes ago, he shut down looms as Senate Democrats plan to reject GOP bill. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, Democrat from New York, said Wednesday the Republicans do not have enough votes to pass their continuing resolution to fund federal government, putting the threat of a partial government shutdown that much closer to reality. And of course, he says Republicans do not have the votes in the Senate to invoke cloture on the House CR, Schumer reports. And of course, although the Republicans hold a 53-47 advantage in the Senate, they need some Democrats to approve the measure or it will fail the 60-vote threshold. So who's going to get blamed for the shutdown? Is it going to be Democrats or Republicans? I dare say Schumer's going to blame the Republicans for sure.
Yeah, but it's not the Republicans. If all the Republicans vote for it, then they can't blame them. It's just the Democrats holding up. But, this is what they do. They're obstructionists. That's all they do.
It's kind of funny. Somebody brought that up to me here earlier. Was saying pointing out the fact that wasn't not too long ago they were complaining the Republicans are going to let the country shut down. The Republicans are going to ruin the country. They won't vote for us. They won't help us. And now all of a sudden they're the ones going, oh, let the country shut down. It's fine. We're not helping them.
Rules for thee, not for we.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, and that's the way the Democrats have operated for many years, and many Republicans at the same time. We'd be dishonest if we didn't throw them in there as well. A lot of them are to blame for the mess we're in.
I can never forget Tulsi Gabbard interviewed by Joe Rogan, and she made that statement that when she went into Congress, they take you back and orientate you and get you all involved in the parties over there, giving her orientation and informing her if the Republicans offer a bill that we really like and approve, we do not vote for it. We shoot it down so we can rewrite it, introduce it as ours. Then we want to get them to make it a bipartisan vote so we get the credit for it.
The infrastructure bill under Biden, it took Trump's $700 billion infrastructure bill, turned into an ugly abomination and passed it.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. So Senator Slotkin says Trump won because Americans' brains are unformed. A Democrat from Michigan, Senator Alyssa Slotkin says, I don't think there's anyone who feels like what's going on right now is normal, even if you voted for Trump, Slotkin told ABC News. And then, of course, goes on to talk about the fact that Americans' brains are just unformed. So therefore, that we voted for Trump in large numbers. Wow.
Well, I'll give Senator Slotkin credit. She's right. This isn't normal. It's glorious. It's absolutely glorious. It's about time we didn't have normal. Get along, bury us in debt, hand out money to your buddies and friends, hire hundreds of thousands of people who do nothing, and just get the gravy train while our grandchildren watch the collapse of the greatest country in history. It's get along, go along, no more. It's either get something done or hit the highway. I still can't believe the whining about Elon Musk asking for 5 things you did last week. Seriously? I mean, if that's what somebody making $80,000 to $140,000 a year employed by the federal government sitting in D.C. thinks about their job, how little they care about it, gee, maybe they should be gone.
Yep, absolutely. You got that right for sure. John, what are some things right now that you wish Trump would focus on? I know you gave him a B plus rating. What are some things that if you can get into the Oval Office right now and say, hey, this is what I need you to focus on, and he could do it with a magic wand. What would that be right now?
Well, being involved in the trucking advocacy and stuff for all these years, there's a lot of things I would like to see changed within the trucking industry. We need more moderation over regulation. We need more attention to transportation policy. You're talking about a president who wants to boom our economy, but he's going to overburden the trucking industry if he actually does what he talks about doing, because there's so many restrictions in the trucking industry. I mean, it's crippling for small carriers, all these regulations and these restrictions. If I had an opportunity to actually sit down with Donald Trump, I would be talking about transportation policy, how we can address some of these antitrust issues going on with the trucking industry, how we can address issues with controls happening where small carriers are being bleeded out. They're just not making the profits they should be making. They're being taught to run at below threshold for profit margins, and they're not making it. They really can't. And the most ironic thing about the trucking or the FMCSA is their mission statement is all about safety, but they don't focus in on these tools that they have to improve or accommodate small carriers so they can be more profitable, reasonably so, not gouging the industry, not gouging shippers or the economy, but just reasonably profit like most businesses should be. And so the first thing you lose when you don't have an income is you sacrifice maintenance, because I can always make it up later, right? I can't
Right.
sacrifice insurance because I'm forced to pay for it. I have to pay
Right.
for my overheads. I can't sacrifice fuel costs because I have to have it. The truck isn't running without fuel. So I got all these overhead costs. So what I can sacrifice at this particular moment in time, in the immediate time, is, well, I'm going to put off this bit of maintenance. I'm going to put off that bit of maintenance. I'm going to cut corners here. I'm going to cut corners there. And now you got trucks breaking down that shouldn't be breaking down. So I would probably focus in on a lot about that. And I think that's something that the country would benefit from. I think that's something that the president would benefit from as far as suiting his agenda, is making sure that the trucking industry is strong as the economy grows.
Fair enough. And I know the colonel would probably be like, "Hey, I need to be the ambassador to South Africa." And we talked about that last week. Has anybody been nominated for the ambassadorship for South Africa, or
The only ambassadorship that I'm aware of, there's any nomination, but I haven't seen a list that's gone forward, is for Israel, and that's Mike Huckabee, and I think that's a
Right.
perfect choice. And the fact that he hasn't been confirmed is disgraceful. The Senate needs to get off their backside. He was the first nominee for a position, and he still hasn't got his nomination. I think it needs to be done. We got Kash Patel through, we got Hegseth through. Those are probably the most controversial, along with Tulsi Gabbard and RFK. There's no reason for Mike Huckabee, a fantastic Christian, a great friend of Israel, to not be our ambassador. But no, I haven't heard of any other ambassador positions. All the political appointments, nothing. I'm sure it's being discussed and may even be out there, but it's not being announced publicly.
Well, interesting. So apparently, California right now is exploiting the Medicaid loophole to pay billions for illegal immigrants in health care. A study finds, according to EPIC CEO, which is the Economic Policy Innovation Center, President Paul Winfrey, he says they are exploiting existing loopholes with the law and funneling the money away from Californians to actually support illegals in California right now. So $4 billion right now that they're aware of. So, and of course, this guy wants to become president. Talking about Gavin Newsom, governor of California.
Yeah, so he does that. Military people have to pay co-pays for their care, and we're giving illegals free care. What kind of crap is that?
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. So let's go around the horn here. I know there's probably several things that we need to talk about, but I'm going through these, through the highlights here and trying to find several things, but I'm kind of struggling to figure out, which way we want to go, because I know we talk about a lot of things, a lot of mixed bags here. But my interest is what is the Kremlin going to do? Because I mean, right now, I guess what's his title? I don't know if he's called a czar, if you will, is actually en route to Moscow to sit down with the Kremlin and try to discuss a peace deal with Ukraine. At some point, something's going to have to break there. What do you think the point is going to be that Moscow says yes, we'll go ahead and sign? It's got to be soon at this point, because I know the will of the people there is it to continue fighting.
Well, I mean, you're talking about the lead negotiator for Trump that's gone over there.
Right.
Yeah, I look, Russia is going to have to either do their business or get off the pot here very soon, or they're just going to be the bad guy forever, and this war isn't going to end unless Trump ups the stakes, and I don't think we want that. So,
no,
like I said, the smart money is for Putin to accept the ceasefire, and then wait for Ukraine to break it, because they're bound to break it, and then just strike back, and then Ukraine will lose more support. So I think that's the route to go if you're Russia.
So
Go ahead, John.
Play some politics there, right? But it would be leverage. I think the whole war started out with Russia entered Ukraine in the first place because they were invited by the Donbass region, because they wanted to secede Ukraine and become part of Russia. Russia overstepped and attacked Kyiv as a preemptive measure because they figured they was going to war. So, and it looks like Donbass is weak for Ukraine right now. So I think that's pretty much what Russia would be looking for. If they're going to have a ceasefire and they're going to have ceasefire deals, I think they want to collect Donbass. And right now, Zelensky isn't about that at all. He doesn't want to lose anything. I think he's made statements regarding that. He didn't want to lose any of his land. He wanted it back. So I think that's what Russia would be holding out for.
Yeah, Russia's the Crimea is gone. It's not coming back, and nobody has the will to force Russia to do that because of the stakes. So Crimea is gone. It's been gone since 2014. The Donbass, I don't think it's coming back. The question is, does Russia want more? I mean, I think the natural geographic boundary for Russia is the Dnieper River, bifurcating Ukraine into two spheres. I think that's what Russia's won all along. It's just that their campaign has been pretty foolhardy, and they never achieved it. So we'll see what they want. But again, the smart money would be for them to take the ceasefire for 30 days.
Yeah.
They have a better chance of re-equipping and getting ready than the Ukrainians do. I mean, they're out of recruits. There's nobody. They're putting 50-year-olds out there, and they're putting mentally handicapped people out there. They don't have anybody. So Russia still has a big manpower pool, and they can get more tanks in the field. So I'd use the 30 days to re-equip and rearm and be ready to launch.
That's fair. I mean, that would make sense for them. It's only a win-win for Russia to do the ceasefire at this point.
I think so.
Well, I don't know if he'll see it that way, but that's where I sit on it. So anyway, yeah, that's kind of.
I'm sure he could use the rest break.
I'm sure the soldiers could use the break.
Relax for 30 days.
Now I can see the headline tomorrow. Right wing. Here we go. Colonel Chris Wyatt, the Republican podcaster, is supporting the Kremlin. He's in on it. You're in on it. You're red to your underwear. I don't know.
Look, I mean, Trump is getting a kick out of this now too. He's like, y'all keep saying I'm backing Russia. Where do you get that from? He's like, I'm backing people not dying. That's what this is about.
People not dying. Ukraine is in no position to win anything. Go ahead, John.
Well, see, I think that a lot of people forget Ukraine got into this circumstance because their inability to satisfy their people. He was being a dictator. He's being an imp. He actually told people that were Russian-speaking people on a Russian border that they could no longer speak that language.
Right.
There was way more than that, right? He goes a lot deeper. So this guy was basically a tyrant. He was an imp. And these people want to secede this imp and get away from this tyranny. Now, Americanism within itself, we stand up against tyranny, right? I mean, here we are doing talk radio, talking about tyrannical behaviors. We talk against it. Some of us get active in DC and other ways. We write letters. We get involved. So we see a tyrant treating his own people the way that Zelensky did in Ukraine. We're going to favor Russia a little bit. We're going to look at Russia and go, well, actually, they're standing up for the people who are becoming victims of this tyrant. So in our eyes, we kind of identify with Russia a little bit here. It doesn't mean that we think Russia's a great nation. We understand that Russia, too, rates high for corruption within the globe. A little higher than Ukraine did, probably. But at least they're standing against tyranny instead of for it.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, that makes sense to me, for sure. Apparently, there's some black pastors are coming together to celebrate Trump standing up against DEI, and of course, actually celebrating the work of Doge too, which is kind of interesting. I love it. Black pastors out of Chicago, Corey Brooks is celebrating Trump's DEI rebuke. So this is great. So we're seeing its effect is actually working in these different communities, places where people have been put upon for many decades, especially going back to the Great Society of the 60s. I mean, for President Johnson, I mean, people have been downtrodden for decades. You know, back in 1964, before the Great Society happened, you had the two-parent homes in African American communities were actually higher than most white communities, and then after that, it decimated black communities. And now look at Chicago. And now all of a sudden we're seeing people trying to make a change there so people can get up and out of those communities and actually have a fighting chance versus being kept down by the parties that are in power in those cities and states. Just a ramble there. Sorry, I just kind of I felt led to to the Lord there for a second when I saw that. So
were you compelled?
Compelled. There we go. I was compelled. Had to testify.
Yeah. But
anyway, go ahead, John.
Well, we were talking about ambassadors that have been nominated by Trump. So far, I see that there were 39 total.
39. Okay.
South Africa is not one of them.
Yeah.
Huh. Interesting.
Those are probably name some of those countries off, and I'll tell you if they're political appointments or not.
All right. Let's see. Start from the top. Ambassador of Argentina, Peter Lamalas.
Oh, I don't need the names. Just tell me some of the countries they're going to.
Austria, Bahamas. That was going to Herschel Walker. Belgium, Canada, Chile, China, Colombia, Costa Rica, Croatia, Dominican Republic, Denmark, France, Estonia, Greece, to the Holy See.
Yeah, that's the Vatican.
Yeah,
the Vatican. Yeah. All right. Ireland, Israel, Italy.
Okay, that's cool. There are a number of political appointments in there. That's what I was trying to get at. There are career diplomats in many of those posts, but they're also there are, like Ireland is usually a political appointment. So that's friends and allies are rewarded for that. So that is one. So yeah, there's a mix in there. That's interesting that 39 have been nominated. So
none of them been confirmed, but.
Oh yeah, that's the other problem. But I mean that might take a long time because the Senate's they don't even want to agree on a budget.
Right, absolutely, and of course they could vote on those, in one fell swoop if they wanted to. They don't have to necessarily hold hearings. They could just be like,
right. There's no reason whatsoever to call an ambassador designated in for a Senate hearing. That's their prerogative, but there's no reason for it.
So if somebody's been nominated, does that put them in the position until they've been confirmed?
No.
What are we doing for ambassadors? We just using the old ambassadors?
No,
charge their affairs sometimes.
Yeah, the ambassador, the political appointments, ambassadors tender the resignation. That's the tradition, and they've done it this one just like they've done in the past. But then the media reports, oh, Trump fired all the ambassadors. No. They quit when Trump left. They quit when Biden left. That's how they do it. So, for instance, the ambassador in South Africa is Ruben Brigidi. He has resigned his position before Biden left. So what happens is that you have a charge d'affaires who is a person appointed to execute the executive mission for the embassy. In other words, people that have disciplinary responsibility for the employees and make decisions and budget decisions and all those things and contracts. And they're the CEO of the embassy in the absence of an ambassador. They are allowed to interact with the host nation, but there is some limits on what they're able to do because they're not the ambassador. See, when you go to a country, you present your credentials to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and then they accept that, and you're accredited as that agent responsible for the U.S. mission. So that person's not right there right now. And in fact, we actually in kind of a step down because the second in command in an embassy is known as the DCM, the Deputy Chief of Mission. So the ambassador is typically known as the Chief of Mission, which is the executive position. So an ambassador is different than chief of mission technically, legally, but it's the same person. So when the ambassador's gone and or they're either out of town, back in the States, somebody has to fill in. So the next person in line is usually the deputy chief of mission, the number 2. And that person takes over, basically, is appointed as the chief of mission, but it's charge d'affaires because it's not the ambassador. So in the absence of the ambassador, you have a charge d'affaires. It's typically a political officer working in the State Department, but sometimes it can be someone else who's more senior for a different agency. So in the case of South Africa right now, Ambassador Brigidi resigned in January, which is the norm. And then his deputy, who had a whole career in the State Department, was at the end of her time. She resigned rather than serve in the Trump administration just to be done with it. And she's left South Africa. So they're down to the third person in charge in South Africa right now. And the person that's identified to be the deputy is coming from Nigeria, but has not moved yet. That's a standard sort of thing. Nigeria to South Africa is not unusual. So right now we have the third stringer who is acting in the role of the charge d'affaires in South Africa. Does that help?
That helps. That's good. That's good insight
Well,
from
like
somebody.
administrative agencies or regulatory agencies where they have a director or somebody second in charge, and they put them in to the acting administrative position until they can fill the role.
That's true. The exception here being that that person's always a State Department official, so they're a permanent employee. The second, number two in charge is never a political appointee. So that's the first thing. Second thing is that they have limited scope on what they can do. They can do most things with the host agency, but they're not the ambassador. They're just the if you like, for a colloquial use, the acting ambassador.
Right. Limited powers there. Or
yeah, but I mean, they can still cool quite a bit. But right. But the other thing too is you always get this, well, our embassies, it's understaffed. We don't even have an ambassador right now. Okay, listen, embassies are run not by ambassadors, but by the staff who do the work. And as long as you have like an XO, which would have been the DCM, which is now the charge d'affaires, they can still run that staff and get the job done until an ambassador shows up. And by the way, ambassadors sometimes are good, sometimes they're a disaster. So keep that in mind.
Oh, absolutely. And of course, they have a good code red guy as well, right? I think it's a defense attaché officer, maybe.
Well, there'll be a defense attaché officer, yes, and a security assistance officer, usually in most of these missions. So, I mean, example, President Trump had Lana Marks as his ambassador to South Africa the first time. She was a disaster. She was completely disconnected from reality, had no idea what was going on. Just a payoff to a very rich friend of Donald Trump, and she got because she was born in South Africa. Now, what the person just left there, Ruben Brigady, very smart, very intelligent, very switched on kind of guy, former submariner, Navy veteran, brief career in the Navy, and served as ambassador at U.S. mission in the African Union. And I know this because he was my boss. I was his senior military advisor there. Very smart guy, and I think he did a pretty good job in South Africa, but he wasn't very popular because he carried the water for the administration, and South Africa had to be called out, and they didn't like being called out.
Yeah, absolutely. And so talk about it if you can, kind of maybe the role that you played on a day-to-day role as your job at an embassy, because I think that's interesting. A lot of people, don't get to talk to people that do the inner workings of an embassy, if you will, the staff like yourself.
Well, the stuff changes over time, and there's one constant in the government: things change, and that goes the same for the military. So during my time, we transitioned for something called the Senior Defense Representative, which would have been the most senior person appointed to represent the Department of Defense and embassy. Most times that's a defense attaché. Sometimes it's a security cooperation officer because they have a bigger role. Like in Turkey, the security cooperation officer is a one-star Air Force general. The attaché is a colonel who sits in Ankara. So they're the senior defense rep. But now they have something called the senior defense official. They implemented about 12 or 15 years ago, and it's complicated things. Most of the time it's the attaché. Sometimes it's not. So it's a little confusing. But so I've worked as an attaché, and my job was to report on happenings in the country and build relations with the military and the security sector, and then advise the ambassador. And so then I've also worked as the senior defense representative, where my job was to be the personal advisor to the ambassador on all things defense and security related. And I was the senior person they turned to. And then you have as I mentioned, the senior defense official, which is typically the attaché. So I've worked as an attaché, but mostly as a security cooperation officer. And I was happy to do that because attachés write reports and meet people and talk. And the security assistance officers do things. We train people, we conduct operations, we run HIV programs, we build roads, schools, clinics, we do all sorts of things. I found it to be much more rewarding, fulfilling to do something. So I served in Africa in 8 different embassies in Tunisia, Liberia, Botswana, Malawi, Nigeria, Mauritania, Uganda, and Ethiopia. And in the course of my work, worked in about 30 plus, maybe 35, 38 countries across Africa. And also in the Middle East and the Balkans. I worked with embassies all over Europe and in the Middle East. And so I've seen that from many different angles. And I have to say that a lot of people lose sight of the fact that we have military stationed everywhere around the world in our embassies. And if there's no attaché office, which is rare, or no security cooperation office, which is rare, that is the case in a few small countries, there are always Marines at almost every embassy. There's a couple exceptions. But so there's always defense personnel that are in harm's way because embassies are targets for evildoers.
Oh, absolutely, for sure. Yeah, without a doubt. Now, let me ask you this. Now, whenever you were rotating, say, out of a country and you had to come back to DC at times, what are some things that you would do in DC? Would you do some retraining or a different assignment while you're in DC, or how would that work?
Well, I've never had a rotation back to DC as a consequence of an overseas assignment related to doing that sort of thing.
Okay.
I've typically, I went from Tunisia, back to language. There are two languages. So wait. Tunisia, I went to the National Security Agency. I went back to my basic branch of intelligence. So it was DC area, but it had nothing to do with DC. From there, I wound up in DC in a foreign area officer assignment. I worked at Defense Intelligence Agency. From there, I went to Liberia. From Liberia, I went to Botswana. From Botswana, I went to the attaché course in DC, and then was headed to Chad, but got diverted to the Africa Command. From the Africa Command, I went to Niger. Then I went to Mauritania. Then I went to Uganda, and from Uganda went to Ethiopia, and then I came back to war college. So you see, I never went back and forth. The only overlap you have is with your headquarters. So for Africa, the headquarters is in Germany. So you go back there and do your out briefings and tell people what's going on and do some paperwork and out processing sort of stuff. But never really went back to DC in any of those assignments. I have worked in DC, but I prefer to avoid
it. Yeah, absolutely, especially
the plague. Yeah, no, it's not my place.
Like the plague.
Yeah,
John, any desire to go to DC and work? If Trump called you tomorrow and said, "Hey, John, I need you. What can you do for me?" What kind of thing could you offer him up? What are we looking at?
Well, I have actually had somebody ask, say I should be the administrator of the FMCSA. I know Leland Schmidt put his hat in the ring to be the administrator.
Yes.
Of the FMCSA. I've seen that another person wants Todd Campbell to be the administrator of the FMCSA. If I was asked to do something like that, I would gladly go do that. I don't necessarily say or think I qualify to be in that position, nor do I expect to be asked to be in that position, obviously. But that would probably be my strong suit because of my knowledge in trucking, and I can best serve that way. I'm like Chris. I go to DC and I feel like dread. I don't know why. I don't feel, when I was a kid, I was like, when I grow up, I'm going to go to Washington, D.C., and I'm going to go to the Smithsonian Museum. I'm going to see everything. It looks so fascinating.
Right.
Get there, and the only thing I ever done there was be an activist or meet with members of Congress, and I'm so busy doing all this other stuff. I've been there to the Smithsonian. I've seen some stuff. I was kind of distracted with other things, so I didn't enjoy it so much. But the one thing I did really enjoy in D.C. is seeing the U.S. Constitution and the Declaration of Independence there. Thought it was interesting. And thought it was powerful because the ink is diminishing. It's like you can barely see the words now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's funny as living there, and like even whenever I live downtown, it's like I need to go out when I'm not on duty or working and just walk around DC. Just kind of, I'd walk through neighborhoods and stuff like that. And if there was a museum, whenever I walk by, I was like, let me pop in there. Most are free. I'm like, that's the way to go.
Yeah.
Even living there, I failed to do even a fraction of the stuff I probably should have done.
Isn't that the way when you live somewhere, you don't do like if you were a tourist, you'd do a lot more.
Right. Well, I go around my hometown here occasionally, and I'm like, man, I've never been here before. I've never done this. I've never been over here. I've never been in this neighborhood. It's like so many places you never go. It's not on the beaten path for you, right?
Don't you hate it when you're raised in an area and you get people that are new to the area and they take an interest, and all of a sudden it's in your history you didn't even realize existed. You're like, wow, man, am I lame, man? They know more about the history of this area that I grew up in.
No, you just look at them and go, yeah, I know.
Yeah, right. Please tell me I grew up here. I know everything.
All right. So no callers tonight, huh? I love whenever we get a good update with what's going on in New Hampshire. I mean, from our callers. So, but here's
next week. I do have quick announcement here. I do have Johnny Yankers is going to come in. He's a local guy here. He associated with the radio station. He said he'd love to come in and be a fourth guy on our show sometime. And I'm like, well, you know what? Next week sounds like a good idea.
Well, absolutely.
We'll have a guest next week.
There we go. Good deal. Well, check this out. This is coming out of Oregon, according to Fox News, and it's They Them Turtle. Oregon Mental Health Advisory Board includes member who identifies as a terrapin species. JD Holt, who helps make policy recommendations for mental health services in Oregon. And it says JD Holt, who also goes by JD Terrapin on Facebook, is one of roughly 24 consumers of the OHA's Consumer Advisory Council. It says the council, established by administrative statute, is appointed by OHA Director Dr. Hathey, who was appointed by Governor Tina Kotek, a Democrat. Yeah, so we have a turtle. I don't know. I don't know if it's a turtle or if it's just, I don't know where you get this. A turtle advising on mental health. I don't see that happening. How do you understand a turtle, guys? What's the turtle language sound like? Does it sound like English?
I've never heard a turtle make a noise unless it was chomping.
Yeah,
at the seaweed or
chomping at the like, you're trying to just snap my finger, snap a turtle. I don't know.
I think
What
the
does a
bigger
turtle sound
question
like?
is someone with a mental illness that advises on mental illness. That seems kind of silly.
Right. It's like, and everybody looks around the room. What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? And we're not going to do what you think. And there we go.
Wow.
And I'm not making fun of the person. I mean, I mean, odd behavior. It's weird. And then all of a sudden we normalize it and say, oh, we're going to go ahead and ingratiate ourselves with you. We love you and support your fact, Mr. Terrapin. We don't support you being a turtle. You have mental illness issues. Let's get you some counseling, some help. I mean, come on.
What can be a better expert in the field than somebody who's suffering from mental illness?
I guess so. Hey, if you're coloring your hair weirdly and you have a turtle shell and it's not Halloween, you're not identifying as Donatello for a day. Yeah, you're something's wrong with you.
I gotta ask, on the back of that shell, does it have the Ukraine flag or does it have the pride flag?
Oh, right. Interesting. Which pride flag too? Because they had to make a new one because of all the colors they ran out of.
Oh.
I don't think about turtles very often. The last time I thought about turtles was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles on the half shell. So
turtle power, turtle power.
Look, I mean, look. Let's just roll the film again. I'd like to give the floor to the gentleman from Delaware, Mr. McBride. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker, yeah, I love it. That is kind of funny, you know.
It was a great look. I mean, you know, whatever you think of McBride, that was a great comeback. It was just ready for that.
The chairman wasn't too phased by it, but
no, the other guy lost his mind. He completely lost it.
Justice warrior jumped up to action. You're out of line.
And I like how he tries, like, I've gotten to know you. That seems a bit out of character. And he's like, nope, that's the rules in the house. We're going to follow the rules in the house.
Well, we got Lindsey Graham. He's poking his beak in now. He says he's gonna push bone-breaking sanctions and tariffs to pressure Russia to the table in a peace negotiation with Ukraine. Lindsey Graham, everybody, sticking his beak in.
Grandstand. Thank you.
Oh, well, of course, he's going to fundraise.
Lindsey will get America involved in your war, Graham. And he was right. He promised in 2013. He pulled it off. We're involved.
Oh, absolutely. But remember now, wasn't he a JAG officer or something? Like
yes, in the reserve. Yep, reserves.
Right.
Yep. Lieutenant Colonel.
Yeah. But hey, anybody who serves wherever you serve, whatever you serve a purpose. But he's touted that as if being some sort of DOD defense expert. You know, it's like let's not go too far here, buddy.
Yeah, he's not exactly a head of Transcom or, a special forces warrior, so.
Right, yeah.
Anyway.
It's like he goes into an office whenever he's on duty. It's like, and he types a few reports and, hey, look over this there, buddy. All right, sounds good to me. All right, see you next week, or next month. So that's it.
Yeah, Lindsey Graham.
Lindsey Graham.
Never met a rhino position he couldn't fall in line with.
Yeah, never met a war you didn't want to send your sons and daughters to.
Yeah,
about Shaheen come in here, man.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Shaheen retiring. She's pretty excited about that. Let's just hope we can replace her. Excuse me for the misgendering. Replace her with with somebody more conservative now. Actually conservative.
Right. Well, get a change of pace. Like I said, we got between that Democrat and two Republicans. If we get rid of Murkowski and Susan Collins, well, the world will be a lot brighter place.
Yep, absolutely. Well, speaking of Maine, you have the Trump administration has cut the Maine University system's funding through the USDA because of their ongoing battle for transgender athlete inclusion. So, yep, Trump's living up to his promise to the governor there to cut the funding. So there we go.
Yeah, that was
the lawsuits.
That was a funny exchange too. She said, "Well, I'll see you in court." He goes, "Well, good luck with that."
That's it. That'll be an easy one. Easy one.
I hope that can people's car speakers on each side.
What are you doing after? What are you doing after politics? Because you're not going to get elected again.
Yeah, what are you have to? I love it. And
that was fantastic.
She shrank back into her seat. Next, who's next? Right?
Yeah, I saw Trump today with the Irish Taoiseach for Prime Minister, and Trump is holding court. He gets a dumb question, he just deals with it. Not like the old days. You're fake news. You're fake news. Now he does a lot more subtle, and they're like little kids that have been smacked on the nose, and they just kind of retreat back. But the press conferences are much more civil, and people are asking real questions. Although today, one of the journalists said, "Don't you have enough problems in Ireland already? Do you think things are going to get worse now that Rosie O'Donnell's coming?"
Yeah. Didn't he say he's never heard of her or something? Or
I think he was just trying to blow it
yeah.
off, you know.
Yeah. Oh, I never heard of her.
Followed her
Yeah.
forever and a day, but he never heard of her.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's
For him,
that's
for it.
she's getting excoriated on Twitter for that nonsense. People are just ripping her a new one. This is a treasonous person. Any American who's born in America who seeks a foreign passport is a traitor.
Yeah.
Yep. And unless you have every intent to move there and become a citizen because you're going to live there, work there, marry somebody there, whatever, by all means, but you don't have due loyalty here, like the colonel said. No due fealty, right?
Yeah, you can't have fealty to two sovereigns. It doesn't work that way. You
Right.
can't do that. And it was a lot more obvious in the days when every country had conscription because you couldn't serve in both militaries. It just didn't work very well.
Right. True.
So I don't buy this concept. I know a lot of people have a second passport and claim they're dual citizens. The United States legally does not recognize. It looks the other way with Jewish Americans who have an Israeli passport, but that doesn't mean we condone it. But, so Rosie O'Donnell's going over to get Irish citizenship. Well, you're a traitor. You obviously don't like America, so surrender your American citizenship. Renounce it. Renounce it.
Yep, absolutely.
It's about time. They've been promising us and promising us. Remember last time Trump got in? Oh, we're all leaving the country if he gets in. Finally, they're fulfilling the promises.
Look, I mean, we want, if we still had the Concorde, we could put them all on that and get rid of them in 4 hours. But the Concorde, they grounded all the Concordes and museum pieces now. We're waiting for the next generation, supersonic commercial airline to come around. But in the meantime, we've got she went to Ireland, and then Ellen DeGeneres went to England, but apparently she spends all her time in New York. So is she really in England? Because she was just spotted in New York again. So.
Of course they are. Yep, always. But New York doesn't count as long as you don't leave Manhattan, right?
I guess one of our viewers has said Ted Cruz had dual citizenship. Well, I disagree with Ted Cruz's dual citizenship, but that's because he had a Canadian parent, and so. But I don't agree with dual citizenship.
I believe he still does, doesn't he?
Yeah, I don't know, but I don't. But Ted Cruz didn't apply to be a Canadian after being an American. That was something he was born into because of dual parentage. That's a different story. Rosie O'Donnell doesn't have dual parentage. She's just abandoning America and going abroad. That'd be like me. I mean, my people have been here since 1621. I just go, you know what? I want to be an Argentinian. Well, then I need to renounce my American citizenship. You can't have both. That's nonsense. Now, coming the other way, I understand why people who immigrate here from Ireland or from South Africa or from India would retain their citizenship there, even though they're not legally allowed to do it. I'd understand that. You still have ties. You grew up there. That's part of who you are. But it makes me question how much skin in the game you have as an American. Are we just a passport of convenience and a safe harbor for you? Either you're an American or you're not American. Decide.
Right. Yeah. You've come here and maybe you're looking to be a spearhead or somebody or figurehead for business, if you will, where the money's going to go back overseas to, I don't like that at all. Yeah, forget that. You're going to come here and set up a business, keep the money here. Don't funnel it back home.
I've seen so many people that come here for the work. They get a 3-year work visa. They come here for the work. And it's basically like we're a doormat. They only come here to make the money to send home because the exchange is so vast that they go back and it's like they got this huge accumulation of money waiting on them. Where now they're rich or they got a great deal of wealth to start their business in their own country. And so it's kind of like you kind of get sick and tired of seeing us being treated like a doormat that way.
Well, if they come here legally, I don't have an issue with that. We fill a labor gap if they come here legally, but so many are illegal. That's the issue.
Yeah, legally, right? Yeah, that's true. That's true.
There generally is a labor gap.
Well, there are legal immigrants here who make a big impact in our technology fields or medical fields, and they come legally. So I'm okay with that.
The left has pointed out to us, though, that we can pick our own produce instead of paying the illegals $5 an hour.
Well, yeah, but then, and I'm happy to pay it, but then a head of lettuce is $14 an hour because you're paying a living wage. That's why they don't like it.
Well, it looks like the attorneys at the Perkins Coie will be enjoying their security clearances for a little bit longer. A judge has blocked Trump's order to remove their security clearances. So
now here's the problem with that. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Go ahead.
One of them compromises our nation's security because of access that they're not entitled to because some woke judge has said you can't rescind that. That's an executive branch decision. Nobody has a right to classified information. No judge has a right to say that should be reinstated. You cannot do that. There is too great a risk to our nation's security to give these demented, spiteful, evil lawyers access to classified information. That's crap. So what they have to do now is simply cancel their badges. You can have your clearance, but you have no access. You have no need to know.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. You have a clearance, but you have no access to any information.
I mean, I have a clearance, but I mean, I don't have access to information now because there's no need to know. I have no need to
Right.
know, but I still have a clearance because I've had a successful investigation and I hold a clearance. And that's what should happen to them. Let them have their clearance back. Zero access. Cancel all their badges.
Right. Yep. Whenever I retired, my security clearance they kept on, but whenever I was doing work with the White House, I didn't have access to anything because the job I was doing didn't require a security clearance, so they just allowed it to expire. But I did keep the clearance in the event they wanted to use me for something, then they could have plugged me in if they wanted to. But this was years ago.
Yeah, and this Perkins Coie, this is an evil law firm that's
Yeah.
supported. They're tied with the Clintons from way back in the day, and they're really all in with the Democrats. I have no empathy for them whatsoever. I wish them ill.
Yep, absolutely. I hope that they spend themselves bankrupt and they'll go away. But I don't see that happening anytime soon.
We
All
got
right.
folks
Go
in there
ahead.
talking about they'd love to be an American. And that's that's the thing about it. That's the point is people used to come to this country to acclimate to be an American. They were proud of the idea. I have an opportunity to become a citizen of the United States of America and participate in this great nation, and what it offers. Nowadays people, we're talking about being used as a doormat. People are just coming over and using us. And they expect us to kowtow to them, to bend to them, to learn their language, to learn their customs. And that's not what America's about. If you want to be an American, come and be an American. If you want to speak the language of your land, you're allowed to. I mean, that's free speech and everything, but it's people wanted to acclimate to be an American. And it's great to see that people here appreciate that what America has to offer. And it's sad that they can't get the same sort of respect in their own countries.
Yeah,
Well, that's a fair point.
Yeah, of course we had Holden here says the Gang of Eight still gets the security clearances and intelligence briefings. Of course, that's by law. That the members of Congress have to get certain members of Congress have to get certain briefings before the president takes certain action. I believe. But I'm sure the colonel probably knows a little bit more about that.
Well, the Gang of Eight is an unofficial term given to
Unofficial.
the top two leaders from each of these bodies: the Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, the House, the Senate, and so there's 8 members of this. They're serving members of Congress. So I don't understand. That's statutory. They have to have access to do their job. So they have to have a clearance. Yeah. But remember that Congress clearance is not the same as the executive branch. So the clearance that Todd and I had is an executive branch clearance. It doesn't grant his permission to go into the Supreme Court on a classified issue or into the Congress on a classified issue. They can show reciprocity, and we do that in intelligence community where they'll accept our clearances. But the rules of the background investigation of those clearances are conducted by different agencies entirely, and they're not co-equal. That's why we created the intelligence community badge, because 30 years ago you couldn't go over to the Congress and see a classified briefing, and you had to get special permission to get them come to the DoD to see classified briefings because they didn't have a DoD clearance. It was a bit of a headache, but we finally solved that after 9/11.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. How well does it work? Is it a perfect system? I don't think so. But from what you worked in the community, what are your thoughts? How well does it work? What could they revamp?
I think that the intelligence community, it works much better than it did 30 years ago, and the reciprocity when it comes to access. So, for instance, I would go to the State Department for intelligence briefings and for meetings. I would go to CIA for intelligence. I'd go to the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency. It was all seamless. It was pretty straightforward because the badge got me into those places. I thought it worked very well. Now, as far as interagency cooperation, that's something that can always be improved, and it always hinges on personalities, the people who are the analysts, the people who are the leaders in these organizations. So when I worked at DIA, I didn't even know who the analysts that covered Africa were at the CIA initially until I got involved with the Presidential Daily Brief, and then the other agency tried to stop it from being run. I went to a meeting and we were sandbagged by about 15 people who were general officer equivalent civilians for the CIA trying to stop my report from going to the president. And then I asked a very simple question, and they just retreated and they backed away and they left the room. And that's when I met well, because I mean, they couldn't defend it. I was a major. They're trying to browbeat me. And I asked a question. I was spot on. Like, if this is not my lane, why aren't you covering it? They didn't have an answer for it. So, I explained why we were covering it, because, if people ask us to do a disaster response, we don't have the helicopters. They're in the Philippines, they're in Iraq, they're in Afghanistan, they're in Colombia. We're kind of busy. Anyway, so it'll be a disaster. So they kind of shut and left the room. And then 2 of the analysts who worked on Africa hung around, and they came over and apologized. Said, "Look, Major Y, we're so sorry. We read your article. We think it's fantastic. It needs to go to the president, but we're just two analysts. We're not be charged." And I said, "Hey, look, I've been trying to find out who you guys were for a long time. It's not like you advertised in the Washington Post who the analysts are."
Right.
So
It's me.
yeah, exactly. Hi. So today's analyst of the day from Langley. I said, "Look, I've been really trying to reach out to you guys so that we could collaborate, and share information." And they go, "Yeah, that sounds like a great idea." So from that time forward, for the last couple of years, I was in DC, had a really close relationship working with those analysts. And as a consequence of that, I proposed that we do an interagency presidential data brief, something that had never been done before, because up until just shortly before this, only the CIA had done these reports to the president.
Right.
Since Johnson created this in the 60s. So I proposed it, and I wrote the first draft. And to be honest, my premise wasn't a particularly strong one. I was just trying to get something in the system to do this thing because I thought it'd be really cool to do. And they didn't like it, so they vetoed it. Okay, it's a joint product, so they get a vote. So we stopped it. Then they came up with one that they didn't like, but they were pushed by their bosses to do it, claiming that something was going to happen that they knew would never happen. And so because I'm a co-author on it, they sent it to me. I edited it, and I said non-concur. And so that gave them top cover. That's what they wanted, though. That gave them top cover with their bosses, so they couldn't be like they killed it. They didn't get in trouble. Well, it was a joint product with the other agency, and the other agency didn't agree with their assessment, so it's killed. So then I came up with a brand new topic a couple months after that. I proposed it. They liked it. I wrote my portion. They wrote their portion. We went through the editing process, and the first ever dual interagency presidential data brief was presented to the President of the United States between the CIA and DIA. And nobody knows about it except me and the two analysts.
Very cool.
And nobody cares. I can't even get a cup of coffee with that story.
No, you can't, because people will be like, okay, this guy's crazy. What are you talking about? Briefings and coffee and donuts and president? I'm going to go ahead and go. I did the thing.
Exactly. So there's a question here from Charles Van Alton, who's one of my viewers from South Africa. He says, "What do I think about Colonel Douglas McGregor saying USA doesn't need Africa Command on the Tucker Show?" All right. Well, before I can answer that question, I have to be honest. I'm not exactly an unbiased observer. I'm a plank holder. I was there at the outset with the founding of Africa Command. I was an advocate for the command. Not that anybody cared when it started. I was a major when Bush signed the order. But I believe firmly in it, and I believe firmly in its mission. So you have to understand where I'm coming from. So having said that, is Douglas McGregor smoking his socks? Would somebody give me your analysis? Why in the world do we not need Africa Command? European Command cannot handle Africa and Europe, and they had that response. They had 78 countries they're responsible for. It was insane. We had this command in Miami covering all of Latin America, just a handful of countries, and we had nobody covering Africa. And as a consequence, the region was divided between Central Command, Pacific Command, which is now Indo-Pacific Command, and European Command. Disjointed, bifurcated, neglected, a fertile ground for terrorism, a fertile ground for corrupt militaries. China, corrupt militaries over their government. The stepping of Africa Command into that breach, regardless of how naive and ignorant the people at Africa Command were, was an effective mechanism. In fact, I'm published by Stellenbosch University on a book talking exactly about the genesis and origins of Africa Command and all of the rumors and claims of what it was going to be and not going to be, and looking at it a dozen years later going, well, that wasn't true. This was true. And by the way, everything that's in that chapter is something I said before the command ever came about. All of it came true. These people were Cassandras. I don't know what Colonel McGregor is smoking, but it must be his socks, because I'll have to go see the Tucker thing and see what he said, because I disagree with that wholeheartedly.
Absolutely. Yeah, you need Africa Command for sure. And the way China's been able to come down and exploit for minerals and everything else, and of course subjugate people as they do it. That's why you need somebody like us as a fair player, if you will, and a true arbiter.
Well, I think that I didn't see McGregor's comment. I'll have to go to Tucker and watch it, because I don't really watch Tucker much, but I'll have to go and listen to it, because my point here is that someone that makes that argument, in my view, truly doesn't understand what the purpose of combatant command is. This is like, it goes back to when Africa Command was founded, and Europe and a lot of black supremacists and white leftists in America were freaking out. Oh, they're going to steal Africa's sovereignty. We're going to build bases all over. And then they lie and say we have bases, which we don't have. But it goes back to the very beginning. And I said, with Africa Command, it doesn't matter where it's located at. And they're like, what do you mean? It has to be in Africa. No, it doesn't. It could be on the surface of the moon, as long as it has a line of communication back to the States. Because what a COCOM does is it doesn't fight the war. It marshals the resources, and it brings them together from all the planet. People forget that for Desert Storm, the command, that Central Command that Schwarzkopf had virtually no troops. He didn't deploy divisions from Kuwait or into Kuwait or from Saudi Arabia or from Bahrain. He got that from ForceCom in America. He got that from the European Command in Germany. Troops came from all over the world to come to Saudi Arabia. He didn't own troops organically. Africa Command doesn't have troops organically, except the people working in embassies and at their staff.
Right.
You need an administrative headquarters with a 4-star general to have the gravitas to get the resources to make the decisions to interact with people in these regions. And if you don't, you're going to fall behind. And that's where we were so far behind in Africa because nobody was focused on Africa. So every year you would have the combatant commanders go to DC and give an unclassified brief about their command, what their focus is, why they need resources to do this, that, and the other. So you get the European commander get up and goes, listen, I'm concerned about partnership for peace. We're trying to incorporate these countries in Eastern Europe out of the former Soviet bloc. We want to incorporate them in democratic institutions, train with them militarily, bring them towards NATO. And then I've got the Russians acting up in the Baltic. I've got the Arctic I've got to deal with up here. I've got this issue in the Mediterranean because we're responsible for the Mediterranean as well, and yada, yada, yada. And he goes, oh, yeah, and I got a couple countries in Africa I need some money for. Then the Pacific Then the Pacific commanders say, listen, I'm concerned about North Korea, the East China Sea, Sea of Japan, the South China Seas, Chinese behavior, Taiwan, Vietnam, Philippines. It's a mess. I'm all concerned about in Russia on my north flank, all this going on, the Straits of Malacca. And and I'm responsible for 4 or 5 island countries in Africa. So you give me a couple $2 for that. And then you got Central Command. I'm worried about Iran, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, Persian Gulf, Syria, ISIS, all of this, Afghanistan. And I'm responsible for Somalia and Kenya. It's stupid. So I don't know what McGregor's smoking. I'll have to take a look at that. He's a pretty smart guy, but I don't know. Maybe he's just off his meds today or something.
Off his meds today, right? They didn't arrive from Africa, I guess. I don't know.
Maybe that's why he wants to cancel it because he didn't get his shipment in.
Yeah. Oh no. Now we're talking about something bad here. All right. So who's this Colonel McGregor guy? What is he? He's a Highlander or something like that?
No, Douglas McGregor is pretty well known. He's a published author, retired. I think he's an infantry guy. I could be mistaken, but Douglas McGregor, he appears on a lot of his shows. And he's gotten a lot more attention in the past years because he's been very active reporting on Ukraine and initially had some very, very accurate predictions, as did I, but I wasn't as well known as him. But McGregor is a lot of people swear by him implicitly. He's a smart guy. I only have beef with him. But again, I didn't hear what he said. But if he's saying that we don't need an Africa command, I want to hear his justification because, getting rid of a combatant command because of poor performance is not a justifiable reason. Getting rid of it because it has a superfluous mission is a justifiable reason, but it doesn't have a superfluous mission. It needs a focused command with a 4-star general. So there you go.
Yeah. Oh, I agree with you 100%. Yeah. And Africa is very important. I mean, for our vital interests as well. I mean, of course, for the world, for energy and so on and so forth, commerce, everything.
It's a lot of reasons why Africa is important. That's true. But the bottom line is that the Chinese had moved into that space in the security area. And we ignored it. They have a naval base in Djibouti now. We don't have any naval bases in Africa. We do have a base in Djibouti, but it's an air and ground base. And they've also tried to extend their influence elsewhere. The Wagner Group is incredibly active in places where they've drawn from, Niger, Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso. And the whole continent has got problems. So if you ignore these problems, they eventually become your problems, either with millions of migrants trying to get across the Mediterranean to invade Africa, invade Southern Europe, the weak underbelly, or these people wind up, becoming members of Congress from Minnesota who undermine America.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And of course, you talked about, Russia's influence with the Wagner Group trying to manipulate their way in there in a back doorway.
Indeed. In fact, they're being implicated in all kinds of, allegations of atrocities going on. But I can't confirm it because I'm not on the ground. And I think the news reporting is unreliable. But I don't doubt that they're involved in this.
Yeah, I'd imagine so. And then, of course, they could honestly overthrow some of these small countries if they wanted to.
I suspect they played a role in some of these coup attempts.
Right, some of these overthrows,
either actively or with tacit support, saying, "Hey, we got your back if something goes south." So,
yeah, bingo. I think that's probably right. Yeah, probably just a couple more minutes here, John. What are we looking at? 2 minutes, I think.
About 1 minute and 20 seconds.
All right, John. Any final thoughts before we get played off?
No, man, my mind's a total complete blank.
Total complete blank. Oh, here we go.
It's Joe Biden night at WSMN.
My
mind's going blank.
Nap, John. Go home and take a nap. But So do you think maybe we could commit to General Don Bolduc maybe to come on, maybe talk about a Senate seat perhaps in the near future?
Wow, that might be asking a lot for Don the way he went out. I don't know if he wants to come back, but it wouldn't hurt to reach out to the gentleman and ask him what he thinks and try to see if he would actually entertain the thought.
At least entertain it. Maybe take a once around the state and talk to people. Take the pulse maybe.
If he's taking a phone call, I don't know. So we'll have to find out and see. I don't know if he just kind of like laid back and decided he liked the quiet life, or
right. Well, do you mind maybe reaching out and seeing where we're at?
Yeah, all right. Yeah, I'll see what I can do. I've been awful about. I've had so many people I've seen that I want to book as guest on this show. I'm the worst, dude. I need a secretary that can book guests for us.
Here we go. All right, Colonel. Final thoughts, sir.
Well, I'm just writing a text message to Brigadier General Don Bolduc right now. It's my final thought.
There we go.
Are you writing one?
What's that?
What are you writing one?
I'm writing one as you were speaking there, John.
All right.
Okay, then you do it.
Maybe we get this ball rolling. For the
all right.
Folks, we'll be back next week right here, WSMN 59 AM and 95.3 FM. Until then, take care and God bless.